Say good evening, everyone. We're going to call the meeting to order. If we can please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Ooh, sorry.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I know. Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to our Golden Apple Awards. Dr. Lons.
Thank you very much, Madam President. I'm happy to turn it over to Ms. Muir.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Lons. Our Golden Apple recipient this evening is Miss Amy White.
Come on down. Let's go. Here we go. Feel free to, if it's really uncomfortable, you're in the right spot. So that's great. Yeah, I know. It's difficult, isn't it? You can just spin. There you go the whole time.
Amy White is a CI program paraprofessional at Walled Lake Central High School. Amy was nominated for consistently opening her heart to her students and providing the love and support that they need and deserve. Amy goes above and beyond to help her students in any way she can, whether that's offering a hug, sharing kind words, or supporting them in any way within her reach. She speaks to her students with genuine warmth and helps them feel valued. She is also a steady source of support for her coworkers, always ready with a listening ear or encouraging words. Amy never hesitates to seek support when she or her students need it. Thank you, Amy, for ensuring that every student you work with feels cared for and has the best day possible. We're honored to honor you.
Okay, we're going to move on to new course proposal. Dr. Lons.
Thank you very much. Ms. Klansky.
Thank you. Ms. Michelle Brandon, our Northern High School phys ed teacher, is going to be presenting a new course offering that's been piloted last year and now this year. It's called Outdoor Pursuits. She'll be reviewing a presentation for the board's consideration. This new course offering, we're hoping to seek approval from the board in January, so that timetable is that 30 days, and if approved, it will be added to the official program of studies for students to select, and this process has been endorsed by the administration, and then, as I mentioned, that motion for approval for the adoption of this will be presented to the board at the January 8th, 2026 meeting. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Michelle, and she's got a presentation to share with you, and then she's happy to answer any questions that you may have afterward.
Okay, so thanks for having me. I'm going to try to keep this under 40 minutes. I'm not kidding. So Outdoor Pursuits is a class that I have been dreaming up for a couple years, and I talked to Kathy a lot about it, and finally we put a proposal together and they let me try it, and it's been awesome. So basically Outdoor Pursuits, it is an actual phys ed class. It does have state and national benchmarks that I meet, standards that we meet within this curriculum. We do all of our activities outside, or as much outside as possible. They have skill development just like any other PE class. There's a lot of challenges, personal and team challenges, outside in nature's elements, which is awesome. There's a lot of stuff in here, so I'm going to go through it as much as I can. But I try to do water-based activities as well as land-based activities and adventure-focused activities. So things in the water, we do fishing. I can do fishing in the pool too. I have these plastic fish that float. There's a whole lesson. It's amazing. you should come and fish with us. But we just did paddleboarding in the pool for a week. We do a little bit of water ecology. That's not my strong point, but it's where I hope to get better at. Ice fishing, water safety. I'm going to have a police officer early next semester, come in, and all the kids will get their boater safety license. So there's a lot of water-based activities. Land-based, a lot easier to do at school. Hiking, backpacking, we do orienteering, we do geocaching, we put up tents, we put up hammocks. They love it. We just did some outdoor cooking today. They love it. And then adventure-based, we have bikes. I've written several grants. We do biking. We sled on campus. We're lucky enough to have a hill, and so we sled at school. They love that as well. When we go to the outdoor center, we've been twice, last year and this year. We do the high ropes. Southeastern Michigan Orienteering comes out and sets up a whole course through Proud Lake for the kids, and they go and do it. It's amazing. Last time it was pouring, and I'm like, oh, they're going to come back any second. And they didn't. They finished. They were so excited. They loved it. I am taking a group whitewater rafting in West Virginia this summer, so I love it. Okay, I'll keep going. One awesome thing about physical education across the board is that we touch all 4 domains of education. So we physical domain, affective domain, social, and cognitive, and that's definitely true for this course as well. So they're learning skills, they're learning consequences to choices that they might be making, whether it's, tying up a hammock in a tree. What happens if my knot is too high? Well, then my butt's on the ground, right? Or what if one's higher than the other, my feet are higher than my head, they fall asleep, so super uncomfortable. But they learn that. They work together a lot, and there's communication. They feel better about themselves. They love being outside. I could go on and on about this. I wrote the course proposal 2 years ago, and I don't want to read it word for word here, but mostly because I believe that, how many of you in this room as adults are playing a competitive sport still? Maybe a few, but most of us aren't playing competitive anything. We're not doing, football or baseball, or some adults do a volleyball or a kickball or whatever, but most of us don't. But what we are doing is hiking and biking and gardening and boating and things like that. Those are like adult things. And so I'm hoping to prepare these kids for what's next. And I want them to grow up and be able to go camping with their families and teach them how to be safe around the fire and how to cook at the fire. And it's amazing. I have a kid in my class this year who's never carved a pumpkin. A high schooler has never carved a pumpkin. And so now, of course, I'm thinking I spent $88 on 8 pumpkins. I can't keep doing this. So now I want to plant some pumpkins at school second semester so that next year, first semester, we have more pumpkins. But I couldn't believe that. And I have kids who have never slept in a tent, never put a hammock up. And these are things they can do for the rest of their lives. So that's why I wanted to teach the class. There is a lot of research that links improved wellness, mental wellness, and physical wellness to time spent outside in nature. So we will not open those right now, but the information is there if you're interested. Why I'm passionate about the course, I pretty much just said it. I love being outside. I think the kids learn from the teachers that are passionate about what they're teaching, so hopefully they're learning in my class. Non-athletic kids feel successful. They are doing lifelong skills that they can continue to do with family and friends. So I'll keep going. There's my block plan for semester 1 and 2, leave no trace principles, geocaching, navigating, learning how to read a map. That's a life skill. My mom will tell you that she still reads a map and she gets annoyed by the GPS, right? So everyone should be able to read a map, and kids today aren't always learning those skills, but these kids are. We did pumpkin carving this year. I didn't do it last year. It was amazing. Backpacking, first aid. I don't need to read all of that for you, but all of those things are linked to standards in the curriculum, state and national standards. So I'm just going to show a couple quick pictures, but that's a trail actually at Northern. We rode our bikes one day around campus, and that, again, is on campus. We rode one day to Long's Farm and got cider and donuts, and that was really fun. These are some emergency shelters they built out of tarps and wood and sticks and whatever they could find. Fishing, On campus, we have a little retention pond, and one of our former custodians actually stocked it with bluegill. So there's bluegill in there. And then that's at Proud Lake when we went camping, backpacking. We spend the night for 2 nights at Proud Lake. Those are the tents they put up and the hammocks they put up. High ropes, that's at the outdoor center. It's beautiful there in October. It's gorgeous. So we go there in October every year. That's the walk wall. Outdoor cooking, this is probably their favorite part of class. We learn to cook on a fire at camp because we can't make a fire at school, but we do use the backpacking stoves, which is in the bottom corner. Blake's there cooking, I don't know, ramen noodles or something. We use those all the time, and today we made chocolate-covered pretzels with our backpacking stoves, and it's great. There's our pumpkin carving. The young man on the top left with the black sweater, he's the one that is never, Aziz is his name, he's never carved a pumpkin before. So that was his first time. Archery, we do 3D archery. I just got another FFE grant for more archery equipment. And then we do bullseye equipment, archery as well. Water safety, that's Dawson on the right. He made a life jacket out of pants, so I have them all jump in. They have to tread, they have to float with their clothes on, and then they have a suit underneath, but they take their jeans off, and while they're treading, they had to make a life jacket. It's way harder than it sounds, so he's super happy because he did it. Paddle boarding, those are all pictures from last year, but I just wrote another grant and I have 8 new paddle boards that we did this week. So that was sledding, so fun. Even the kids that forgot their jackets and boots still came out and went sledding with us. If I were to click on that link, it would take you to the benchmarks, which most of us probably aren't super interested in, but they're there, so if you guys want to see them, it's in the slideshow. This is my favorite part, so I hope you'll indulge me. It's a couple minutes long, but this has student feedback. Whoop, those are some grants I won, but I didn't mean to get there yet. Matt Weber, I think, had the volume up.
Hi, my name is Eli. I was in Miss Brandon's class as a senior. Class was 2025, and it was my favorite class of high school.
Hi, my name is Andrew Schneier. I was in Outdoor Pursuits last year, and by far my favorite 2 memories were sledding with the whole class and setting up our hammocks, because we all had teamwork involved a little bit with it.
All right, hello, my name is Mason Bangle. I took Outdoor Pursuits last year, and I think anyone who has the opportunity to take it definitely should. It is by far the best class I took in all of high school, and that's saying a lot. My favorite memory is when we took our camping trip and we built hammocks and built tents and we stayed the night in Proud Lake. Let's see, we also made food overnight, and I can tell you, some of the friendships I made in that class, I'll be friends with them for life. Nothing will ever be the same as that class was, and nothing will ever be that fun. I'm starting an owl watching club here at Kalamazoo College in honor of that class that got me into owls. So I think definitely if you have the chance to take it, you definitely should. Miss Brandon is a phenomenal teacher, not only in gym, but for outdoor pursuits. And so, yeah, if you have the chance to take it, I think you should. So, yeah, thank you.
So I'm Dawson, and I'm representing Miss Brandon's class, outdoor pursuit class. And one of my favorite things that I did there was going camping, because it's like an experience that you never get to experience anywhere else other than in that class. You're camping with a bunch of classmates and everything. And not only that, but I learned so much on that trip camping. I learned what to avoid for, like poisonous plants and poison ivy, like that stuff. And also ticks. Ticks are a big thing around there, and I learned how to prevent that and remove them safely without going to any urgent care anywhere. But I believe that Miss Brandon should be able to run this class literally forever, and not only run it forever, but be funded to do this, because I believe that this class offers something that nothing else, you can't get it anywhere else. I feel like every kid should know and experience what outdoor is like, what the outdoor pursuit class is like, because it offers so much more than just a class. It's experience, it's bonding with like other people in ways that you wouldn't be able to do in a classroom. But I believe that this is probably one of the best classes you could take ever in high school. And I still think about that class to this day. And I believe that every kid should be able to take that. And I feel like every school should offer that. Thank you.
So he's a doll. He actually came back and helped my daughter with her Girl Scout project, roofing, and these kids are great. Anyways, this one's faster, I believe. Trust me, it's my current kids. They're not as
My
chatty.
name is Nicholas Bowen, and my favorite part about this class is the fact that we get to come outside during school hours and experiment on like how to survive in the outdoors.
My name's Porter, and something I liked about the class is being able to go outside during the day, and the field trips were a lot of fun.
Alright, my name Wyatt. Something I like about the outdoor pursuit class is the field trips and stuff like longs and the camping. And something I've learned is how to use a cooking stove outside, which was pretty cool, I guess. Yeah.
One thing I learned in this class was how to put a hammock up. I've never learned how to do that. And another thing is using cooking stoves. I've never used a cooking stove before. I've always just had my stove inside my house.
My name's Cohen. My favorite part of this class is the field trips and being outside more. And something that I tried that I've never done was sleep in a hammock and tent camp.
Hi, my name is Hunter. My favorite thing about this class is definitely the camping trip because we got to apply what we learned. I've learned a lot of different stuff, tried a lot of different things like sleeping in a hammock, tried new foods. I really like this class.
One thing I learned how to do was set up a tent. I never knew how to do that. Oh, and cook outdoors. That's brand new for me too.
I have learned a lot from this class, from learning how to hike to building a tent to hammocking. I've not only learned how to do all those things, but I learned my love for nature.
I know, isn't she cute? Okay, so almost done.
My name is Nicholas Bowen,
Nicholas.
and my favorite part about this class.
Okay. So those are some grants that I wrote to get the equipment. Also, my PTA bought me 12 hammocks, and I've done some fundraising, sold some T-shirts, and used some of my department money. So we have a lot of money invested into this class. So my reflection is, over the past 2 years, a lot has gone really, really well. I've been surprised. I've been really happy. I love watching the kids grow and have fun. Some things that, and the second time around definitely went better than the first time around. I just learned what to do and how to do it, as all teachers do. We're constantly reflecting, right? So it kept getting better and better. My kids have been absolutely amazing. They're constantly talking with their friends about it. Kids are like, what are you doing? And I on purpose, I'm pretty smart and sneaky, so when we do our bike rides, I make sure I go by all the classroom windows. And when we did our pumpkin carving, I made sure it was right in the middle of the commons where everyone saw it. So a lot of kids are really interested in asking for schedule changes, which makes me happy. So let's see. The only thing I wish was different is, honestly, Wald Lake Central would be the amazing place to teach this class because they have block scheduling. So today we were really rushing. They have the Richardson Center. They have bike trails. I mean, I don't know why they're not doing it there, but that would be an amazing place to teach this class. I just feel like my classes are a little too short. I wish they were 70 minutes. It would be perfect. I also wish I had a classroom that was right off the gym, which I used to have, but I don't anymore. So if I'm teaching in the commons, there's a lot of distractions, or if I'm teaching on the other end of the building, we're not as close to my equipment. So those are just the two small things that aren't not deal breakers, right? So I'll deal with having an inconvenient classroom if I can keep teaching this class. The administration and my community partners have been amazing. Proud Lake gives us free firewood when we go, and Carrie at the Outdoor Center has been amazing, and my administration's been amazing, so it's been really great. I want to keep expanding activities. I did get approval to make a bike trail on campus, so I have a bike shop that's actually willing to work with me on that, so they're excited about it too. I have a dream of building a garden. We have that retention pond, but there's super huge weeds, and so every time we cast our rod, we're bringing in weeds. So it would be amazing if we could have a little platform or something so we could stand on that, if that's possible. This is a huge dream, but the elementary schools have the small little rock walls. I want a really big rock wall, but I know it's really expensive, so that's probably not going to happen before I retire. But and I would love to also partner with my science teachers. And I said I wasn't really strong with water ecology. It's really interesting to me. I went and actually got certified to be a fishing instructor, which is crazy, but it was amazing. I learned to fillet fish and everything. But they did a lot of water ecology there, and I loved it. I just don't have the background to teach it. So if I could partner with a science teacher for like little sessions like that, I think that would be really cool. And then that's it. So thanks for letting me share my passion. Is there any questions or comments or concerns?
Mr. Siegler.
Not questions, but I'm looking at this as an evolution, if you will, of fifth grade camp that has morphed now into the high schools, and I do love the idea because you look at the collaboration your students are doing together. You look at the tie-in to science, the learning about nature, teamwork, outdoor safety, which a lot of our children are not exposed to, how to survive, if you will, in the outdoors. Again, I think most of our young adult children don't spend enough time out there to do that. And you're also watching student growth, and you're watching them really appreciate the depth of what you're doing. And the enthusiasm, I can see it already bottled up in you. I can see it in the students, and I wish you luck, and I can't wait to see what the end result is.
Thank you.
I'm very excited about this course. I think it sounds really cool, especially in a world where we are so focused on technology, and I feel like that we have this disconnect between us and nature. So to actually really force our kids out into nature and reconnect with it and learn those basic survival skills, and that's what it sounds like, a lot of basic survival skills, which I think is just amazing that we could really utilize in our lives today. So I really appreciate you really being passionate about this enough to bring it into our schools and try to have a course that's offered. So thank you very much. I am curious about how you plan on doing a final exam for this.
Yeah, that's a good question. So last semester, the kids are taking pictures and I'm taking pictures, and then they all had to present at the end of the last semester of basically a reflection. It was like a virtual, what's the word I'm looking for? Not like a scrapbook, but a portfolio. So they had to, there was some questions that they had to answer, like what did you learn? What were you surprised about? What did you not enjoy? And then they, put in some pictures and they had to present it to their class. This year, in addition to something like that, they're researching an outdoor career, and they're presenting that. So people have chosen DNR. Oh, and the first boy, Eli, on here that was very quiet, he actually was going to go into athletic training, but after my class, he's decided to be a DNR officer. Yeah, so he's currently at OCC taking some police work, whatever you have to do before you can be a DNR officer. But anyway, so the careers were like park rangers, tour guides, DNR officers. I can't even remember all of them. One of them wants to be a lifeguard. I'm like, good luck with having that be your career, but it's, you should research it. And I can't remember the list of them, but they all have picked a different list. One of them wants to be a zoologist and work with the animals at the zoo. And he promised me he'd only work with outdoor animals, so I let him do it. So that's part of we're adding that piece. Another project I did have them do at one point, it was really kind of a yucky period of time, I don't know, rain or something, we didn't go outside, so we researched local parks that they could go to. So they all had to pick a different local park. How far is it from Northern? We had Northern be the base. What can you do there? How much is the cost? Like, Kensington has a lot of different activities. Other parks don't. So, but people didn't know about the Wisewood Trails. So one of the boys wrote about the Wisewood Trails, and so I'm having them do that kind of stuff too. So that's plugged into their final assessment. Yep.
Mr. Lippett.
Yeah, thank you for your presentation. Super enthusiastic about this. It's like the anti-screen time class, which I appreciate. Just really quickly, what are your numbers likely to be for this year? How many students? What grades? And also, I'm interested in knowing what costs will be for families and students to be part of this course.
Sure. So the first year, it was kind of hard to recruit people for a class that had never existed before. So I had 17 kids last year in the class. This year, it's closer to 30. I have, okay, that was the numbers. What was the next question? Grades. Oh, grades. So I only wanted to offer it 10th through 12th grade because I just felt like maybe the freshmen weren't quite as mature. But honestly, I think freshmen are easier to teach than sophomores, personally. And a freshman accidentally got put in my class, and I let him stay, and he was Hunter, the kind of quiet kid. But he has an A++ in my, he has like 105% because he does all the extra credit. Like, I offered him 5 points if you can make a whistle out of an acorn top, which I learned as a Girl Scout, but none of these people knew how to do. And so now it's really funny. They bring it inside, and they're like blowing their whistle constantly. And if you know Milkshake Mike from the Outdoor Center, he said to me one time, don't you kind of feel now like the parent that bought their kid the drum set? Because they will not stop with these whistles. So anyways, that's why he has 104%. So I am going to ask when if the class passes and I work with the counselors to put it in the course book, I think I'm just going to open it up to 9th grade too, because that 9th grader some of my 9th graders are more mature than some of my 10th graders. So that's kind of so it's open to everyone. And the cost, I do try to make it as economical as possible. Nothing is mandatory. No one has to go to the camping trip. But when we went to Long's, it was $5. When we did a Thanksgiving dinner. I didn't talk about that, but I brought in a turkey, but they made the stuffing and the corn and the mashed potatoes and the gravy and everything in those little cook pots, and that was $5. They all gave me $5, and I just bought the difference. I just covered the difference. And then our camping trip was $80. 2 people did not go camping this time, but they said it was just because they didn't want to miss school. So I am guessing that they're spending less than $100 if they went on everything, which is probably, I think that the choir field trip to Cedar Point is the same. So I don't know if it's that much different. Yep.
Mr. Smith.
Thank you for this wonderful presentation as well. It's viewing it as a different approach to PE, and this will be an extra as well. PE still happens.
Yep.
Is this each semester? Is it going to be different topics that are more spring, summer-y versus
Yeah,
I see on the
so
slide?
last year I only taught first semester, and I did something else second semester. I didn't have that 5th hour, the next semester. This year I have it both. So I am thinking to myself, how can I make it different? So if one kid wanted to stay, and I have like 5 kids who are going to be in it both semesters. I want it to be different for them. So we did, for example, I don't have a picture of it here, but the plastic fish I have, they were all over the commons, and we learned how to cast our rods and catch the fish and bring them in on the ground. Next semester, I'll do a similar activity, but we'll have it, they float, so we'll do it in the pool. And then when they take the fish and they look at the bottom, it'll say, this is a rainbow trout, it's 8 inches long. They have to open up their DNR book, and they have to look to see if it's in season, and if it's big enough, and if it's the type they can keep, and if it is, they'll put it in the bucket, and if not, they throw it back in the pool, and they have a bucket, and it'll be a contest, like how many fish are you allowed to, whatever. So I'm just gonna have the same activity, but different, so it's not boring. I did a photo scavenger hunt first semester where there was I had crazy stuff down there too that I did not think they were gonna find, like easy stuff like a beehive and a bird's nest, but I put animal bones on there, and they found a coyote skull in the woods by our school. So they had to take a picture of everything they found. Next semester they're gonna do a scavenger hunt, but they have to be able to spell their name with objects in the wilderness, right? So the shape of the tree or the whatever. So it's a similar but different. So it's going to be interesting. And we're also going to go camping in a different location that we can do boating at, because we didn't do boating yet. So I did paddleboarding in the pool, but I haven't done boating. So at a camp, we're going to be able to kayak and do different skills.
Okay. And then tied into that, could someone realistically take this course their entire high school career?
So Eli, the young man in here, he was my physical education senior award winner, because we have a department award winner every year. He took 5 PE classes with me last year. I had him first hour, third hour, fifth hour, first semester, and first hour and third hour, second semester. He took team sports many times. He had all of his credits. That is what the kid loved to do. He loved to move. He loved to be active. He graduated. He had all of his credits, but he didn't want to take, the other stuff. He wanted to be in the gym. So he wanted to be an athletic trainer, to be fair. But so you can take this class as many times as you want, just like you can take team sports as many times as you want, or weightlifting as many times as you want. It's going to be hard for me to keep making it different. But one thing I told the boys, we were cooking today, and I said, okay, now next semester, you 5 are going to be my experts, so you can help me teach the new kids next semester. So I can, Montessori my way out of that.
And then with it, I believe last question is that you tied in that, working with maybe local police department. I know some of them, like, for instance, Wolverine Lake has a Marine Patrol, like other things like working with multi-lakes and other things. That
Oakland County Marine Division, Tim, I can't remember his last name. My daughter just went and got her boater safety license. I've already had mine, but I redid it. I spent 20 minutes with him talking about how to get him, because we used to do it in our teen health classes, but we don't anymore. So I begged him to come, and he's going to do it for free. There's no cost except for my sub for the day, and he'll do it. He'll be there all day, and the kids will leave with their certification. So he's for sure coming in. Proud Lake has been a partner. The bike shop that I'm going to be working with, psychotherapy, will be coming in and helping me with a bike path. So if anyone has any ideas or any community partners, I would love to hear more about it.
Mrs. West?
So I have another question.
Yeah.
You said you go camping. How do you separate, how do you manage the campsite with both males and females?
Well, they're not allowed to share a tent, obviously. But every single kid has, that part of their grade is they have to put up their own tent and put up their own hammock. So every individual kid is in their own tent and their own hammocks. And then I make sure that I have both female and male chaperones. And let's see, Sadia, I only had one girl. What makes it easy is I only have one girl. The rest are all boys. So Sadia was kind of over on my side with me, and the boys were over there. But they are all in their own structure while they're sleeping. There's not even 2 boys in the same tent. They all have their own.
Thank you.
Yep.
I think I have one question, but I just want to say I'm so enthralled with your enthusiasm, and this class sounds fantastic. And you are right. Us as adults need to keep pushing those activities for us as well.
Yes.
I want to ask you about the whitewater rafting trip.
Yep.
Like, how many kids are going with you, and how does that work? And I assume it's not a mandatory thing.
No, it's not mandatory at all. As a matter of fact, I offered it to my first and my second semester classes. I emailed them right away as soon as it was approved. I sent it out to everybody and said, I really need to know by this day. And the sign up was slow. It was $695 for 3 nights. Bus transportation, all your food, 2 days of whitewater rafting and zip lining. I mean, it's a pretty good deal, actually. So if any of you want to come, I have some room. Yeah, Mr. Lyons, you want to come? Have you ever? Okay, you should come. What better way for the Board of Education to see what I'm doing? So I offered it up to not just my classes, but when the sign up was slow, I offered it to the whole school. So every single, all 1,400 families or whatever got the invite, and people were signing up. I have one family from Wall Lake Central coming. I have currently 23 people signed up. I really need 24 to not lose a ton of money, but we can have up to 48. So I still have some room for you all, if you'd like to come. It's June 14th to 17th.
Well, thank you.
Yes.
We appreciate it, and very excited to hear.
Okay, thank you.
So thank you very much.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
Okay, we're going to move on to 31AA. Dr. Lanz.
Thank you, Madam President. As some people in our community may know, when the state passed their budget, 31AA is safety and security money that we've been receiving for a number of years. In this particular version of it, they added some additional requirements, and we asked our attorney to come in and explain those requirements, the additional requirements, to the Board of Education, as some of them have a substantial impact on how the district could function. So I'm happy to introduce Adam Blaylock from Miller Johnson, who is here to present an update to the board and to our community on 31AA safety and security money.
Good evening, and thank you for having me. I have not had the opportunity to work closely with this board before, but I've become the subject matter expert on our team for this. So I want to introduce myself briefly. I've been with the MJ team a little bit more than 2 years. In a prior life, I was actually a school administrator. I was a director of human resources at Lincoln Consolidated Schools, and I've been in and around schools for more than a decade now as a lawyer or as an administrator. So I want to give you that background, that I come to this not only as a lawyer, but also as someone that sat in the seat that some of your administrators are right now. And I want to give a little bit more context to Dr. Lanza's statement about this particular bucket of funding. So it originated in the aftermath of the Oxford shooting. The goal was to provide schools more resources for safety, security, and mental health components. The provision that we're discussing today is unique and novel. To the best of my estimation, it's the first attempt by any state legislature to impose this kind of requirement on a local school district. And ultimately, while I hope and pray that it's never consequential for any school district here in the state of Michigan or across the country, it has the potential to be a very consequential decision for the organization. And so I apologize for the darker tone after the great enthusiasm that we just saw. But this is an important topic, and that's why I'm here. I've had the opportunity to speak with dozens of superintendents and a number of school boards about this particular topic. And I'll be candid, is ask your questions. Don't wait for me to get to the end, because you'll probably forget. And we're going to talk about some kind of difficult practical things as well. So unfortunately, that is where we are this evening. So I want to start with a little bit related to the actual statutory text and the thing that is giving everyone so much indigestion. And I've bolded and underlined kind of the key clause from this language, which requires local school districts to affirmatively agree to waive any privilege that may otherwise protect information from disclosure in the event of a mass casualty event. And so that word, those words mass casualty event, mean a couple of different things, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. But ultimately, the target for this is just what I talked about. It's school shootings, it's mass events that are catastrophic for local school districts. The thing that's given everyone so much indigestion is that concept of affirmatively waive any privilege, because it's kind of a bedrock principle of American civics to be able to talk to your lawyer and have that conversation be confidential. And ultimately, that is what has caused all of the issues and all of the indigestion. I don't think anyone disagrees with the idea of agreeing to be subject to an investigation. That seems fair and reasonable. It's the idea that the conversations that you might have with district council might ultimately be disclosed. And that's something that kind of cuts to the core of a lot of basic principles that I, as an attorney, feel. I don't like it. I'll be honest, I don't like this language. I don't think it's good for schools. But it is the law, at least it's the statutory text. The second piece, and again, this is a lot of words on a slide. Don't expect you to read them all, but I want to give you these words to have in front of you. The comprehensive investigation that's also subject to this language has certain expectations in terms of what they're going to investigate. And then after that mass casualty event, the governor has the authority to appoint this independent investigator. And that person, or that organization, is supposed to be given access to all relevant records and data, interview witnesses and district personnel involved, and then issue findings and recommendations based on that investigation. And then ultimately generate a report that will be transmitted to the legislature. All of which is a lot of stuff to be thinking about in the aftermath of what is the most catastrophic event that a school district could potentially deal with. So unsurprisingly, when you've got something like this, people sued. So there are 2 lawsuits that are going on right now. And as I mentioned to Dr. Lanz earlier this week when he asked me to put together this presentation, I said, well, we're probably going to have something that happens between now and then, and I was right. So the first case is the federal court case. There was an opinion issued earlier this week in that case, and it effectively kicked the can down the road. It said it's not going to consider or contemplate what's going to go on with this case until after final resolution of the state case. And candidly, I think after the state case decision, which was issued yesterday, the most likely outcome is that that whole case is going to get kicked out. It's possible that there's a different permutation or a different set of facts, but I think that's the most likely outcome. And then yesterday, the Michigan Court of Claims issued a decision upholding that privilege waiver. And there was a large group of school districts and school officials that have sued in both of these cases. And I was hopeful, although not optimistic, and ultimately was proven right in terms of the decision. Now, there are likely going to be appeals. And the deadline for a decision or a rescission on the decision that the district has made is December 30th. And so what I would suggest is the most important takeaway from the discussion that you end up having tonight is giving Dr. Lons clear direction on what the board's will is on this particular topic. And I'll be candid, districts are all over the place. This is perhaps the most split that I've ever seen school districts on any particular issue. And I say that as someone that lives and breathes this. I represent many of the school districts in southeastern Michigan and all across the state. And it seems like every place I go, I am a little surprised by the conversation that we have. Madam President.
As you bring that up, oh, I'm sorry, I don't want you to tell me which districts, but can you give me a percentage of what are saying yes and what are saying no? You know, where is it splitting? And you can focus this in Oakland County if you want.
So the dynamic has changed a little bit as this whole thing has developed. But when I talk about specifically the privilege waiver, I'll be candid, I think it's about 50-50. There are some trends in terms of what I've noticed, and there are probably two that are really noteworthy. One is I've noticed a difference based on the fund equity in a particular school district. So there is $140 per student that's available under this grant, maybe more depending on who declines. Which is a significant sum of money for a lot of school districts. And so the school districts that I work with that have a lower fund equity are more likely to say, okay, we'll accept the funding. Those that have identified some kind of budgetary gap this year are in that same boat. The other trend that I've noticed is what I would call kind of an urban-rural divide. So the school districts that I work with that tend to be in more urban areas are more likely to be willing to accept the money. And those that are in more rural areas are tending to say, no, we're not interested. The only other nuance is for our ISDs, the way that the funding is allocated, there's just not very much money. And so almost all of the ISDs that I've worked with are saying no thanks, because the total dollar value is just very low for most of them. So I'll use Wayne Risa as an example. Wayne Risa is going to get $0 out of this because they have no students. And so they're not going to sign the waiver in that case, obviously. So that's the trend that I'm seeing. Okay. So I want to talk a little bit about the decision that we got yesterday because it has offered some clarity to a lot of the provisions that I had questions about. So there are a couple of what I call statutory clarifications where the court has come in and said, here's how I interpret this language. The first one is that any privilege means any privilege. So the most prominent one that I've talked about is attorney-client because it's the one that to me is very core and the one that I think has most people riled up. But there are other privileges that school districts can sometimes claim. One is an investigator privilege, for example. When you have an independent investigation, some of that information can be deemed privileged. So the Court of Claims has come out and said any privilege means any privilege. It's very broad, not vague, but broad. The second piece is a little bit of clarification on what the definition of mass casualty event means. So the first definition of mass casualty event is significant injuries to 3 or more people. So they were like, well, that means a meaningful injury that's visible. What does that mean? Not a whole lot clearer. But the types of things that I think would likely fall under that umbrella are if you have a significant bus accident, that could be a mass casualty event. If the bleachers at the football stadium fall on Friday nights and injure multiple people, that could be a mass casualty event as that's defined in the statute. Now, whether the governor will invoke this provision and appoint an independent investigator is a different question, and one that may depend on the circumstances. But it's certainly broader than what we normally think of when we define a mass casualty event. The second clarification that the court offered is that there was this question as to whether because the second definition says the word fatalities. So there's a question, is that a single fatality or multiple fatalities? And the answer from the court's perspective is it's multiple fatalities. So the second way that an event can be defined as a mass casualty event is if there are multiple deaths. The third is this concept of exceeding the normal resources of a jurisdiction. And that in particular has gotten a lot of my more rural clients riled up because they may be in an environment where any 911 call at the wrong time could exceed their normal resources. That's probably a little bit less of an issue in a jurisdiction like this, where there are multiple municipalities that may be answering, but that's a definition that they offered a little bit of clarity on. And then finally, the fourth definition that could fit an event within this definition of mass casualty event is a surge of injuries requiring emergency response. And so that, in the eyes of the court, means an event that suddenly and unexpectedly causes several individuals to suffer injuries that require emergency services at once or within a short window of time. Now, what does that mean? I'm not exactly sure. But those are the pieces of clarity that they've offered on some of those definitional pieces.
Go ahead, Mr. Lippitt.
Thank you, Madam President. I actually have two questions, one for you, sir, and one for Dr. Lons, if we could. First off, this has not been clear to me from the beginning. Is the privilege that we're waiving specific to the use of the funds that we are using for this grant? In other words, are we waiving our privilege for the entirety of our security posture on top of the funds that we are using for this?
What I would say is that any privilege means any privilege. So it's very broad. There is a slight narrowing that I planned on getting into in a slide or two that discusses, so the court spent some time talking about how this privilege is for the purpose of the investigation that would follow. And this is one of the practical realities that I've talked about is that, and I say this, like I read the guidepost report that was prepared in the aftermath of Oxford. It's 600 and some odd pages. The reality is that in the aftermath of a mass casualty event, there is finger pointing that happens. And so having an outside investigator that's able to capture all of the information means that it's very likely that the finger is going to be pointed at someone. Who, I don't know. But that is a risk that I think is real in the aftermath of a mass casualty event when you have this independent investigator coming in and analyzing all the information.
Got it.
There's some nuance here still related to the privilege, and I'll get into that a little bit more, but I know you had a question.
Well, I had a question for Dr. Lons. Has our insurance provider to the district made their opinion known about this?
They did. At this point, they view it non-consequential if we accept the money or don't accept the money. Now, I have heard that insurance providers, if you accept the money, or let me rephrase, once the deadline is passed, whomever has accepted the money will go into a new bucket of providing insurance for. They've not stated that officially. That's the rumor that is out there. Okay. And it would be important, and this may come up later, so I'll mention it now. For our district, we're looking at right now a baseline of about $1.7 million is what we would receive in this category. Am I pretty close there, Ms. Omer?
Thank you.
You are. I had actually,
Mr. Ziegler, go ahead.
I had actually figured it out when we were talking. Also, this is one-time money, correct?
That is correct.
So we are opening ourselves into an issue for perpetuity for one-time money that would also expose our district and our staff to secondary consequences.
So there's some quibbling that's going on with this in perpetuity. And I say quibbling because, unfortunately, the opinion that we received yesterday doesn't deal with it directly. During the litigation, the state conceded that the intent and their interpretation of this language is that it's only for the duration that the money is around, which would mean the current fiscal year and then maybe one more if you carry the money forward because you're permitted to do so. And I candidly do not think a court would interpret this one-time waiver to apply 50 years from now.
Guaranteed.
But you are 100% right that it cannot be guaranteed, and that is still an open question. I think it is certainly not the interpretation that I would if I were the decision maker, but I am not the judge in this case, so I don't get to impose my interpretation.
Say, I've got one other question. I know you're probably going to get to it a little bit further in your slides, But as Mr. Siegler had stated, the district and the staff, I'm also very concerned about our students. What of their information can be shared and is not privileged any longer that's happening, if, they're having a mental health crisis at some point and they happen to be involved in the bleachers falling, now their personal information is all out there?
Correct.
So let me skip to the next slide because it's the third bullet point here. And this is, I think, a very important, one of the most consequential components of the opinion that we got yesterday, which is that Section 31AA applies only to the school district and not to individuals. And so some might be like, is there really a distinction there? And I think there is, particularly when we talk about, for example, our students that have rights under the law to have their information protected. Now, under FERPA, there are a couple dozen exceptions. So there are lots of ways for that information to be disclosed, but the law is structured in a way that would initially at least protect that information to disclosure. One of the exceptions is if there's a validly issued subpoena, which is almost certainly going to be coming after a mass casualty event. So I don't think that there's any change for our students. And I don't think that there's any, there's some changes for our staff as it relates to what would happen. So the weird thing that's going to be created here is that in the aftermath of a mass casualty event, as district council, I'm going to tell you my recommendation right now. Get your own lawyer. Because the conversations that you would have with me would not necessarily be privileged. I think there's some nuance, too, as it relates to, well, what about legal advice versus factual developments? There's more arguments that can be had. But we're talking about what I think is a meaningful change in terms of the district's ability to get candid advice from district legal counsel. Now, an individual will still be able to invoke their own privileges. So if the example that you want to use is the counselor that spoke to the student right beforehand, they could get their own lawyer and they could invoke their own privileges related to that. But conversations with district counsel would not necessarily be protected.
And Mr. Billilock, that would also apply to our insurance counsel also. Is that correct?
I would expect it to as well.
Dr. Zellner.
Thank you, Ms. Kathleen. Dr. Lons, what right now, if we were to take the 31AA money, where would those funds be allocated towards?
I'll speak in broad categories as we don't speak specifically about our security improvement, but there are still some hardening of our buildings that we need to do, and X number of these dollars would be applied to that. The vast majority of these funds are applied to support people supporting our students. And so we would have to make a decision as to continue with that position or find different funding, which would only be general fund for the most part, or reduce that position and not fund it anymore. Correct. Yep. Almost all of them would be directly related to mental health support for our students.
One piece, and this touches on some of what Dr. Lons is just sharing, is there are rules associated with how we can spend the money. And those rules have shifted over time. I wouldn't say they've changed, but there's been some differences in terms of what the money can be used for each year since it was first put in place back in 21. Okay. All right, so
Thank you. So I have a couple questions as well. What privileges are currently waived that would no longer be privileged?
So again, the most prominent is attorney-client.
Okay.
And so, and maybe the best way to provide an example of that is kind of what happens in the aftermath and talking a little bit about what happened in Oxford. And so I know that I think it was 2023, there were a number of prominent news articles in the Detroit News and Free Press of former Oxford board members that wanted to disclose more information, but were not allowed to do so. And part of that is what happens in the aftermath of a mass casualty event. The reality after a nuclear event like that is that you lose control over about 98% of what's going on. The insurer comes in and is directing traffic on all of the responses because they are ultimately on the hook for the vast majority of the dollars and cents that are associated with that event. And so because of that, the insurer will leverage themselves to say, no, you're not going to disclose anything that's confidential or subject to attorney-client privilege because it's going to harm our defense, and we will no longer cover you if you don't follow our instructions. The way that insurance works is that when any loss happens or any potential loss happens, if there is a concern that it's not going to be covered, the insurance company will issue what's called a reservation of rights letter. And it basically says, we will appoint counsel for you, but on the date of loss, when the verdict is in and you're responsible, then we'll make the decision about whether or not we're going to cover it. And that's how all of these insurance companies work. And so one of the risks is that in the course of this process, some conduct will be uncovered that would exclude the district from coverage by its insurer. Now, I can't give you all the hypotheticals because it's an impossibly large number, but that is how it works, and that's the risk that is out there if we're not able to maintain confidentiality or privilege. And when we talk about Oxford in terms of liability, in terms of who was held responsible legally, the answer is that the school district and the school district employees were found not liable. They were able to leverage governmental immunity in order to put together a defense to the lawsuits. Now, good, bad, or indifferent as to that, the reality is for a school district, that's a significant financial consequence if there was liability imposed. And so that is why the insurance company did that. The insurance company imposed its will in order to avoid liability, because they would have potentially been on the hook for somewhere upwards of $55 million.
Okay. And then, as far as investigations go, how much is already out there? Like, like it's already transparent, and like we're not really like losing anything, because if a mass casualty event happens, everybody's talking, the public and everybody, just.
So what I would say is, like, all of the data, all of the emails that aren't to a lawyer, basically, all of the communications, all of that information, all the camera footage, all of that is disclosable and would ultimately come out in the course of any litigation. The difference is in who, and in the context of the conversations that are had by individual employees and district staff and any outside investigator. So in Oxford, there are a number of folks that did not talk with the investigators. They chose not to or didn't based on advice of counsel. And so the question is, for those folks, can they be compelled? And the answer depends a little bit on whether they have their own counsel and whether or not they can invoke their own privileges. But the district was invoking that privilege at that time. And so it would change the dynamic of what that investigation looks like.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Smith?
Thank you, Madam President. I just wanted to ask, maybe you're going to go about it, talking about later, and I'm thinking that you're kind of putting two things, it's insurance but also legal. Because a lot of my question is about, like you said, immunity, and I heard you say that, the individual employee or administrators or school board members would have to retain our own, and if we waive.
So that would be my recommendation. No obligation to, but it would be my recommendation. And so one of the things that I've shared is for our superintendents that are in school districts that are accepting the funding, they might want to look into their own insurance on this so that they don't have to bear the cost of that. And I know a number of the statewide organizations, whether it's MASA or MASSP and those types of organizations, offer a $10,000 policy or something like that. But obviously, in the aftermath of a mass casualty event, that's not going to be anywhere near sufficient. And so my recommendation in a district that accepts the funding is that if you are dealing with a mass casualty event, I would recommend anyone that's going to talk to an investigator or whoever it may be to retain their own counsel if it's necessary. Okay. There are a couple of examples in the Court of Claims case that I want to provide to you so that you have some of the context about how the court was interpreting this particular statute. And so the first one is a shooting that occurs on a school bus leading to the injury of 3 or more persons or the death of at least 2 folks, the state would then have the right to conduct a comprehensive investigation. And so a couple of examples that might help with the contours of what this means is if the investigators request the district to provide email communications within the district's transportation department about safety issues on school buses, the district may not withhold those documents. The second is if the investigators request communications between the district's superintendent and the district's attorney about legal methods of addressing safety on buses, the district may not claim an attorney-client privilege. And that is like, those are the kinds of things that I think would create a risk of being able to pierce governmental immunity to get to the point that I think you were making. The third bullet is that if a school counselor worked with the involved shooter in the past, the district could not raise a counselor privilege for communications within its control. And then the next point is if the district asked the counselor directly to reveal statements made during a session or to produce materials shared with the counselor's own attorney, the counselor could assert any available privilege because the counselor did not agree to waive any privileges. And so there's a very fine nuance there between what's disclosable and not disclosable based on that hypothetical that was provided by the court. Okay. A couple of other examples. If the bleachers collapse at a football game resulting in injuries, this could be declared a mass casualty event. Talked about that example already. If the bleacher collapse injuring or causing the death of one individual, on the other hand, would not be a mass casualty event and would not trigger that investigation. Mass food poisoning event or mass illness caused by a gas leak would fall within the definition of a mass casualty event if it met those criteria, if there were multiple folks, if there was a surge. But such incidents impact school safety, and school safety is one of the purposes of the funding. So there was a concern that was raised about how does this really impact school safety and the purpose of the funds, and the court found that it did. And then one of the examples that was brought up in the course of litigation is, well, what about a single teacher that has a heart attack and ends up passing away? And the conclusion from the court was that a single teacher suffering a heart attack in the classroom would not be a mass casualty event. Okay. These were the specific examples provided by the court, but yes.
Okay. I'm stuck on mass casualty.
Yeah.
You know, when you say mass casualty and how you're explaining besides these examples that you just gave, everyone's brain and mind is going to a school shooting.
Yes.
There are so many other things that they're triggering as mass casualty.
Yes.
Can you be just a little bit more specific, you know, so that a big brawl in the high school, you know, at a football game, and there's a fight between, you know, one of our schools and, you know, the visiting school, and 3 people get broken noses. That's considered a mass casualty, correct?
I think it could be.
You know,
3 students having a panic attack would be a mass casualty.
so, you know, just trying to fine tune what we're talking about, because yes, the big broad thought is a school shooting, and, you know, that's the big broad thought. But we need to also look at all the other implications of what they're considering mass cazalty.
Yes.
And that's,
And so, the examples that you're providing, like one of the ones that has been on my mind throughout the last 2 months is a significant fight at a school. Now, I don't think those kinds of fights are happening every Tuesday, but they have happened, and there is a risk that that would be invoked in order to appoint this governor-appointed investigation.
Mr. Siegler?
When you look at mass casualty, literally there is nothing that is being excluded, unfortunately, the way this is set up. I mean, if you had students that were having a panic attack and you had to call for EMS, it is an incident. If you had some students pass out for whatever reason, it is an incident. And, you know, it is a very, very wide umbrella without definition.
Dr. Zellner?
Thank you, Ms. Kaplan. So just to clarify, the privilege being waived is in the course of the investigation that is triggered by the governor appointing an independent investigative situation, correct?
I think that's an accurate statement. And there's some argument on the margins still.
Okay, so we're not 100% clear there.
I don't want to oversell it that that's exactly it, because candidly, we have one opinion that deals with it. And so
Right.
it didn't deal with every permutation. I do think, though, the way that the court is looking at this, and I have the benefit of having read the whole opinion,
Sure.
is that the court sees it as narrower than a lot of us probably would. Now, is it as narrow as I would like? No, because I would like to not have to deal with this.
Mhm.
But that's not the words that the legislature wrote.
All right. So just to say it back to you, to make sure I have it, is that the way that can we go back to the slide where it has the actual language of the statute real quickly?
Well, I think I'm going the wrong direction.
Well, we can go back in time. Thank you. All right. Oh, yeah, the next one over. Yeah, so this is, so the investigation, this is about the investigation. That's what I'm trying to drill down on, because if we're talking about panic attacks, on its face, you wouldn't have the governor being like, okay, they had 3 panic attacks, and now we're going to send in this investigation. And we can't say for sure. But that's what I was trying to look at around this language, was that there is an investigation that will assess the circumstances. The governor will designate that person, and it will provide a detailed report within 90 days.
Moving back forward. So I've kind of distilled this down to what I think are a number of practical issues. Some of them we've already talked about, so I'm not going to belabor those points. The first one is the fact that this is actually in front of you, because typically grant funds don't end up in front of boards. And I want to be candid, like, this is a special case. This is not something that typically I would say requires maybe a board to consider it. But it's long been the view that the Board of Education holds the privilege for the district. And so ultimately, if there's going to be a decision to waive that privilege, that is a board decision in my view. And it has to be knowing and voluntary. And so I'm happy that I am here to give you all of this information so that you can ultimately make what is, again, a hopefully never consequential decision, but could be. We've talked a lot about the insurance consequences. And so I've had the opportunity to kind of collaborate and work with some of the insurers, and what Dr. Lons has shared is consistent, although I hadn't heard the rumor about different pools yet. So, but the indication that the insurers have all given is, oh, this doesn't change your insurance. Mm-hmm. But as I shared earlier, there are practical consequences for all of this that we need to be mindful of, and not the least of which is that the reality is that this independent investigation is going to have a tremendous amount of credibility, and it would make the job easier for someone trying to sue the district in the aftermath of a mass casualty event. And that's just a reality. So the conversation that I've had with some of those insurance leaders is this. It likely means that any settlement has a greater value than it would have before. That's one of the practical realities, because the process of getting there will be easier for those that are trying to sue the district. All right. We touched briefly on governmental immunity. And so as a general rule, and this is the law, is that governmental employees are generally immune from tort liability. They're immune from negligence actions or intentional actions that harm when they are engaged in the exercise or discharge of a governmental function. So operating a school is a governmental function. And so as a general rule, that has not gone away. This has not pierced governmental immunity, which was one of the anxieties that some folks had early on. And I make a reference to Oxford because, as I mentioned earlier, the district was able to defend itself from the lawsuits with a finding of no liability. And the reason for that is that the court in that case decided that the shooter, rather than any particular employee, was the proximate cause, the but-for cause in the decision and in the shooting. The next piece that I've got is what I call the funding hammer, because I want to be candid about the consequences of accepting the money, is that the recommendation that I have for all the boards that I'm working with is if the district decides that it's going to accept the funding, that it plan on complying with the comprehensive investigation. And the reason for that is this. After non-compliance, after accepting that money, the next thing that I would expect from the department is for them to withhold all of the funding that was allocated under 31AA because you are no longer complying. So in the middle of a catastrophe, the district would also likely create a cash flow problem for itself and suddenly knock $1.7-ish million off its books. And we talked about the duration of the waiver, right? So the statute itself is silent. And as I mentioned earlier, the state conceded that in the litigation, but the opinion didn't deal with it. So that's not binding in the future necessarily. As I shared earlier, my interpretation is that it's unlikely that a court would see this as a waiver in 50 years from now. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, but that doesn't mean that the argument won't get raised in 50 years either.
Well, but even, I'm sorry, even you're taking the money for 1 year. There's nothing guaranteed after that, and I doubt very much we will see anything. But we are having our hands tied because, the statute is silent, but because the statute is silent and does not have a term on it, our hands truly are tied.
So
as a board.
I will say, let's say hypothetically this is one time, this is the only year that this language is in the statute, which I don't know, right? Can't predict the future. If I were defending a district 5 years from now, I think it's a very strong argument to say that the waiver was only for 1 year. I think it's a strong argument, but it is not a certainty. It is an argument, and I think that is maybe your point.
Yes.
Okay.
Because I feel the exposure to the district, to our administration, to our employees. I don't think there's a limit to this right now. If somebody really wanted to make a case out of it, it could happen 5 years from now. It could happen 10 years from now.
And that right there is part of why this is potentially a consequential decision for the board, is because there is the potential that you'd be binding those that are here, sitting at the table, as well as those that come after, to a decision that you're making.
Okay, I want to go back for a second, back to, the scenario of a big school fight and numerous people get injured. I understand, you said that about the FERPA, but are you telling me that, like, if you have, say, 3 students that were in that fight, that were football players or, whatever they were, that have seen our counselors, have had mental health issues, and, they have been reported numerous times, that if this fight occurs, that their private, personal information of what was happening personally with them is not going to be released?
So based on the court's opinion, the private conversations that were had with the counselor, I think would be protected. There are other things that I think would not be protected. So their student records, for example, would be protected under FERPA, but as I mentioned earlier, there are a number of exceptions to FERPA that would allow the disclosure. None of those are readily apparent, but they are certainly possible, because if there's a big fight, there's probably going to be some kind of warrant that's issued and a subpoena that's issued if need be. So ultimately, I think the answer to your question is that some of that information is probably going to remain private. But I don't think that for that group of students that we're talking about, that there's really a meaningful change in terms of the law for them. I think that the disclosures that are happening right now would be similar, if not identical, in that scenario.
Mr. Smith.
Ms. Kaplan, I have a follow-up with that, and I believe I saw it in there. So, for instance, again, I'm used to FOIA law, and I'm used to, okay, if they can't get things because it's redacted attorney-client, then through discovery they're going to get things and stuff like that. But, for instance, say there's a staff member, a counselor, or whatever, unless, like, say they don't retain their own attorney, they have conversations. Could their personal phone be FOIA'd, to get, and they have their private conversations that are there? Maybe they have issues with, family things, and it's all public in the report.
So what I would say is that phone is probably disclosable anyway.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a change.
Okay.
what happens in the aftermath of a mass casualty event is that there's much greater focus and a much broader investigation. And that's just the nature of those things. So I don't think that things would legally change as it relates to the privacy of that person's phone. I'll go back to the question slide. I'm going back and forth, so.
See, any other questions? We're going to have time towards the end for us to have more discussion amongst ourselves before we decide what we're going to do. But at this moment in time, does anybody have any questions for the attorney? Mr. Ziegler.
Would you say, thank you. Would you say the definition of government immunity in there is very vague?
So this statute doesn't mention governmental immunity at all.
Okay.
And that's why I don't think it's been changed in any meaningful way. The definition of governmental immunity as it relates to school district employees is if you're engaged in a governmental function, which is most of the things that schools do, pretty much all of them. Like there's very rare that there's anything that's not a governmental function. In order to pierce that, you need what's called gross negligence. And so gross negligence is not just that I made a mistake. It's that I made a mistake that was so catastrophic that no one in their right mind could possibly make that mistake. That's a high bar and remains a significant protection for school employees and school administrators that I think is going to continue going forward.
But that was one of the issues with Oxford that they were trying to push more than anything else.
So in the litigation for Oxford, the argument was made by the plaintiff's attorneys that the district was grossly negligent. And ultimately, again, the defense of the school district was that there was no liability. That wasn't pierced. So it is a risk in every one of those kinds of events that that's going to be the argument that's made.
Everyone's thinking. I can see them all thinking. Any other questions for the attorney?
So is this, Madam President, is this we have to decide tonight?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
And so I can give a little bit, maybe more context that'll help, is that at this point, at the recommendation, because in the course of the litigation, a bunch of deadlines got pushed around. But what's happened is that every school district in the state that I'm aware of has opted in as of the December 4th deadline. We have until December 30th to rescind that decision. And so the recommendation that I sent out to all of our clients this morning after the decision last night was you should continue to monitor the litigation very closely because there are likely going to be appeals. There may be changes between now and December 30th. Candidly, I think it is unlikely that the status quo is going to change much between now and then. And so I think now is about as much information as we are going to have before December 30th. And so ultimately my recommendation to you tonight would be to give Dr. Lons good direction on the will of the board as it relates to that topic so that he can make an informed decision by December 30th as to whether or not to rescind the district's election at this point.
Mr. Lippett.
Thank you, Madam President. Did I just hear you right? Every district that you're aware of has opted in for 31AA?
Yes, because they made it cost-free.
And how many districts have you shared this presentation with?
This particular presentation is custom-made for Walled Lake. I have spoken with probably 50 or 60 different superintendents over the past 2 months, maybe more. And probably a dozen or so boards in some way, shape, or fashion. And so the decision to opt in was made very easy by MDE for this reason. They said that you can rescind until December 30th, but in order to get the money, you've got to opt in by December 4th. And the reason for that is there were logistical issues in terms of allocating the money, and there was a statutory deadline. They've got to get the money out by December 31st.
Got it. So it would be fair to say you expect on December 30th or sooner that
a lot of districts are going to opt out.
Got it. Okay.
How many? As I said earlier, it's about 50-50 based on my experience.
Okay. I want to make sure I heard that correctly. Thank you.
And Mr. Lippett, we are included in the every district. We have opted in at this point.
Mrs. West.
Thank you. So are we protecting more of the insurance companies? Is that what I'm understanding? That we are not giving them all the information giving investigators all the information so that way they don't spend as much? Is that what I'm understanding?
So I think I would frame it a little differently. I think that any consequence for the insurance company is something that I don't care a whole lot about. What I am concerned about in terms of those that accept the money is that I think there is an increased risk of liability in the event of a mass casualty event. How much, I can't tell you because it's unquantifiable. I will have a candid moment that I shared with Dr. Lons earlier this week. And I say this, and I recognize that there's a lot of opposition at the table at this moment. I have been on team Take the Money throughout this process. And I'll offer why, so that you have this perspective. One is I think the likelihood that any particular school district is going to be subjected to a mass casualty event is very low. It's very consequential if it happens, but it's very low. And the reality is that this is a chunk of money that can be used to help secure the facilities to prevent such an event. I don't like this legislation. Candidly, I think it sucks. And I think it's bad for school districts, and I think it's just the first of many things that are going to be like this. Because if we're successful here, it's not going to surprise me when we have other things like this in the future. But it's really hard for me to turn down money over something that I think is very unlikely to happen. So I share that because that is my own view. There are others on my team that disagree with me, and we argue about it. We continue to argue about it. But I wanted to give that context to the team as well.
Okay, and then I have another question. As far as like, if a person is found grossly negligent, if it was found that because of that they would be let go, would that change as far as insurance probability and receiving insurance in the future?
That doesn't change the analysis at all in terms of the district.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Smith.
Ms. Kaplan. All right. I'm sure maybe you've had the discussion that the money's coming from the state, right?
Yes, sir.
If districts don't accept this money, does this put them on a so-called blacklist or whatever phrase you want to say for future grants that are like, hey, they didn't accept this money?
No, and I'll be. What's been interesting in watching the litigation is how there's a difference between what MDE is saying and what the state is saying. MDE continues to take no position on this, and in some of the candid conversations that I've had with some of their upper-level administrators, their attitude is if there's money for schools, we want to get the money to the schools. They don't want to jump through the hoops, and they don't want to deal with this stuff. But the reality is that this is something that the state of Michigan is defending, and there have been rumors about where this language originated, and I would say that it's not from MDE.
Mr. Siegler.
Early on, was there something in 31A that said we could not use the money to supplant anything that we currently have in our budget, or was that stricken?
There is, I believe there's still language to that effect in the current version of the statute.
There has been some additional guidance from MDE on that, and they've loosened up their definition in this particular term, but it wouldn't apply to us because we're already currently funding in that way.
So this would be used for additional, at least for 1 year, for additional resources?
It could include additional resources. More likely, it would maintain current resources.
Anybody else? Okay.
So, Madam President, just so the board knows, Mr. Blaylock is leaving. So when we get to the discussion point, we're not phoning a friend. We're not. So if you want to take a second and make sure you have all of your questions asked, because I want to make sure everyone has all the information that they need.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for your time. We
Thank you, sir.
appreciate it. I'm going to take a short recess right now. Yes, please. 5 minutes good, or you guys need longer? Okay, we'll be back at 8:30. Thank you. Meeting back to order, please. And we are going to proceed with public commentary at this moment. So I want to thank you all for coming tonight and for your interest in addressing the board. This is your opportunity to address the board. The board will listen to your statements, questions, or concerns. We're not going to have a conversation. If follow-up is necessary, a member of the superintendent's staff or board member will get back with you. You have 3 minutes to address the board. Please keep an eye on the timer on the wall, please. And if you come close to your time, Mr. Siegler will let you know that you're coming close and begin to ask you to wrap up your comments. We ask that all speakers remain professional and refrain from personal attacks, please. With that, we're going to start with Erin Johnson. Okay.
Hi, I'm Erin Johnson. Like they said, I'm here today as a parent and someone who sees our schools as the foundation of our community. Over the past few weeks, I've had the opportunity to work with community members to educate and gather support for a competitive contract for our teachers, which really includes a competitive starting pay that falls in line with other school districts that surround us. In an effort to show leaders the importance of the community, we created a petition. At this time, our petition has over 750 signatures and is still growing. It was like 787, I think, when I checked right before I got here. We are using change.org to verify signatures, and 85% of the signatures are within the zip codes within our district. So this is really a true representation of the importance of competitor teacher pay for our school districts. Thank you.
Thank you. Next will be Kirby Valentini. I hope I said that correct.
Thank you. My name is Kirby Josephson Valenti, and I'm here as a previous student of the district, a daughter of a teacher in the district, a parent, and a community member who values the work that our teachers put in every day. And I see what their contributions are as a foundation for this community. The teachers in the district have been working without a contract since March. And the lack of contract causes instability in our schools, which leads to higher teacher turnovers, lower test scores, and in turn, lowers our property value. After reviewing all neighboring districts, including Troy and Farmington, for comparable enrollment sizes, Walled Lake has the lowest starting salary for teachers. Our teachers' starting salaries are 16% lower than the average in the compared groups. How can we expect to attract more and more importantly, keep our valued teachers here teaching our students as they are not receiving the salaries they deserve? Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Lauren Jaffe.
Hi, I'm Lauren Jaffe. I'm also a parent of 2 kids in the district. And I think we can all agree that if the solution were simple, it would already be in place. No one is suggesting that there is an unlimited funding or an easy fix. And even after listening to you say about the money would be used for keeping going services that we already have, that was a little concerning to me. But what is clear is that the value of our teachers should be very important. I've had the privilege of volunteering at Keith and seeing firsthand how deeply our teachers care for our children, and even the PE teacher who spoke up here. When I see them walking through the halls and listening to their conversations and how those conversations with the kids, they make them very trusted adults that they can talk to and help shape them into competent, capable students. It is an incredibly demanding job, and seeing it up close has only deepened my respect for those who choose this profession. Teachers don't enter this field to become wealthy. They do it because they have a passion for educating. But when compensation is no longer livable, that passion is strained, and too often, talented educators are forced to leave the profession simply to support themselves and their families. I understand the budget is complex. However, what is clear is that paying our teachers fairly should be a priority for this community and essential to the long-term strength of our district. If surrounding districts can pay teachers more, it's fair to ask why we cannot. Thank you.
Thank you. Amanda Levine.
Hi there. My name is Amanda Levine. I am a parent of 2 students in the district and the daughter of a parent who worked here for 25 years. To the Board of Elected Officials, elected by the over 750 community members who signed this petition saying that it is critical we pay our teachers a competitive wage. Our teachers are the foundation of our community's success. We are asking the board to help. This has gone on too long. The expectation of our board is high, and we need you to step up and step in. Right now, the administration seems to be standing still and is unable to bring agreeable terms on this vote. Walled Lake is the 3rd largest district in Oakland County and among the largest for enrollment size in the state. We should be an example of how school districts are run. In the past, we have been. Going months without a contract for our teachers has caused a loss of faith in our district and in our schools. Our community needs our board to start taking actions on what they can do. Please help our beloved teachers, and please protect our values, our students, our families, and the reputation of our Walled Lake schools. Thank you.
Thank you. Lori Augenbaugh.
I have nothing prepared, and I'll be really brief. I have loved working. I love this board. I've loved the time spent with the cabinet. I love my school. You guys have done so much for us. We're losing qualified, beautiful teachers to Livonia, Novi. Like, just settle this. That's all. I'm begging you.
Thank you. Anna Hurtado.
I cannot see. Hi, my name is Anna Hurtado, and I have 2 kids in the Walled Lake School District, one in 8th grade at Sarah Banks, and the other is a senior at Walled Lake Western. I started volunteering for school activities as soon as my oldest entered kindergarten at Walled Lake Elementary. Through the years, I've seen firsthand the hard work and dedication of the teachers in this district. My kids have been nurtured, they've been pushed when they need it, they have been wrapped in love. I love this district, and I have been an outspoken advocate for this district my entire time working here as a volunteer. But what I'd like to focus on through all of this is the top-notch extracurricular programs that are available through the school district. My kids have participated in a wide range of activities. They have developed interest in things that I never would have dreamed of. And they do this because of, I'm sorry, I don't love speaking in public. The only reason these programs work as well as they do is because of the dedicated teachers. And unfortunately, without a contract, they're doing all of this outside work without being compensated for it. I know that they should receive back pay once the contract is settled, but in this moment of unaffordability, this feels especially cruel. You have a nationally recognized band program that did not happen by accident. Just a few weeks ago was Solo and Ensemble, a competition for middle and high school band and orchestra students. The rehearsals are after school. The actual competition is an all-day event on a Saturday. Mrs. Dzinski and Mrs. Sirahal were there supporting and cheering on their students. The musicals, the plays are in full swing. That is a work-intensive project. Those teachers are giving up evenings, weekends, not getting compensated for it until the contract is settled. Forensics is about to start soon. Mr. Bevier and Mrs. Frayne give up weekend after weekend to support all of these students. Their sports, Model UN, NHS, chess, like the list goes on and on. You should be incredibly proud of all the extracurricular activities that are offered here. But I think that the teachers should be compensated when they're doing their work. There's also a current teacher shortage, like the other speaker just said, and other districts are offering steps to lure teachers over. We are going to lose the amazing teachers that we have here. That teacher that presented today, she is a dream. Her enthusiasm is amazing. I want to take her class. We need to do everything we can to protect these teachers.
30 seconds, please.
Several nearby districts began the school year without settled contracts. The initial delay was partly attributed to the state's budget issues. Since those issues have been resolved, however, most, if not all, of the surrounding districts have successfully finalized their contracts. I'm not going to say the last part. Please settle this contract. The teachers deserve so much. They are amazing. So.
Thank you. Brenda Raymond.
Good evening. I'm Brenda Raymond, the junior kindergarten teacher at Pleasant Lake Elementary School. After 38 years of serving the students and families of Walled Lake, I will be retiring in the next month. This district has been my home, my purpose, and my pride. I have watched generations of students grow, succeed, and come back to tell about their lives they have built. Actually, just saw one at dinner this evening. I've worked alongside some of the most dedicated educators anywhere, and it has been the honor for my career to stand among them. It's because I care so deeply about this district and its future that I want to address one issue before I step away. Our current salary of just under $40,000 for new teachers. It's simply too low. And new teachers no longer get a pension. I get that. They don't. To understand why, let's look back. Here is one of my first teaching contracts, 1989, for $22,500. Adjusted for inflation, that amount would be close to $60,000 today to reflect the cost of living. That means the $40,000 we offer new teachers isn't just behind, it's nearly 20 years behind today's economy. And when starting salaries fall that low, below the cost of living, we pay the price not in dollars, but in talent. Our surrounding districts, as you've heard, are offering more. They know that salary drives recruitment. I had a candidate for my current job. I told her not to bother to apply. She shared that her salary was $110,000 in Westland schools. Our districts seem to know that other districts seem to know that if you want the best educators, you can't greet them with a wage that forces them to work second jobs or to struggle to afford housing. So here's what's happening. We lose promising candidates before they apply. We invest in training new teachers only to see them walk out the door. We ask the next generation of educators to do more for less while carrying student loans, high rent, rising cost of everything from groceries to gas. A district cannot thrive when the pipeline of new teachers dries up. And our students are the ones who feel the impact the most. As someone who has spent nearly 4 decades in these classrooms, I can tell you with absolute certainty, our children deserve nothing less than the very best teachers we can bring through our doors.
30 seconds, please.
Raising the starting salary isn't a perk, it isn't a luxury, it's an investment in the future of Walled Lake. It tells early career educators you matter, your work matters, and this district and school wants you here, growing, thriving, and staying. As I close this chapter of my career, I leave you with deep gratitude and hope. I'm proud of the work I have done and believe in the work still ahead. I implore this Board of Education to take a stand. Do not allow any contract to move forward without meaningful, major changes in salaries at the bottom of the pay scale. Our teachers deserve it, our students deserve it, and this district's future depends upon it. Thank you for listening, and thank you for 38 years of employment.
Thank you. Gabby. Gabby.
Good evening. Tonight I'm here to present a few facts. Fact: Michigan girls have been placed in locker rooms with biological male without their knowledge or consent. On September 9th, at Monroe High School, girls were directed to change in the locker room shared with Skyline volleyball team, which includes a biological male. Parents have stated the girls were not informed until the next day. This is documented incident, not an opinion. Fact. The MHSAA has not provided confirmation that Skyline submitted a completed and approved gender identity eligibility request before competition began. The MHSAA handbook requires that approval be on file before the season starts. Despite national attention and parent inquiries, the MHSAA has offered no verification that its own rule was followed. When governing bodies fail to enforce their rules, girls are the ones who pay the price. Fact. Walled Lake Consolidated School District repeatedly cites the Elliott Larson Act, but has provided no written explanation on how Title IX is being enforced. Through FOIA, the superintendent described bathroom access as case by case, referencing meetings, plans, and single stall options. Title IX was not mentioned once in that explanation. Title IX is federal law, Elliott Larson is state. A district cannot claim both when one contradicts the requirements of the other. Fact. I have raised these concerns more than 10 times and sent multiple emails, and this district has chosen not to respond. I have delivered over 10 public comments asking the same Title IX questions. I have sent multiple emails, including on November 14th and 19th, with no acknowledgement or reply. OCR requires districts to respond to Title IX concerns promptly and transparently. Silence is not neutrality, it is a decision. When a district repeatedly refuses to answer Title IX questions, the OCR does not call that confusion, they call that noncompliance. And the final fact, the most critical one, is that consent is non-transferable. A girl's consent to play her sport is not consent to share a locker room with a biological male. Her consent to join a team is not consent to surrender her privacy or dignity. No coach, no administrator, no board can consent on her behalf. Consent cannot be assumed, reassigned, or overridden in a case-by-case. This is why Title IX exists, to ensure no girl loses her rights because the adults failed to ask, does she consent? When consent is ignored,
30 seconds, please.
it is not an oversight, and it is a violation. And one final clarification. The girls in this district, including my daughter, are not a security solution for situations where a male student feels uncomfortable using male facilities. Discomfort experienced by a male student in the boys' bathrooms or locker rooms is an issue for administration to address within boys' spaces, not a justification to remove consent from girls. Administrators cannot resolve one student's discomfort by transferring the loss of privacy onto another group of students. Consent cannot be taken from girls and reassigned to someone else,
Conclude your comments.
regardless of intent, feelings, or circumstances. Title IX does not allow the district to solve problems by asking girls to absorb them. These are the facts, and facts demand action, not silence. I'm asking this board once again for a written public explanation of how Walled Lake complies with Title IX. Our girls deserve clarity, they deserve consistency, and they deserve protection. Thank you.
Thank you. Peter Bierman.
Good evening. My name is Peter Behrman. I'm a father of 5 children in Walled Lake schools. My wife and I came here tonight basically to support the teachers, but a couple things I kind of wanted to address along with that. Watching the presentation today on the Outdoor Pursuits program, that seems like a phenomenal program. I think that the district should really consider supporting and maybe enhancing that. Listen to the presentation from your attorney on the 31 AA money. I'm an attorney myself. Frankly speaking, if a mass casualty event was to happen, everyone's getting sued. You all know that. Why turn down free money, as your attorney kind of advised you earlier? Take the money and really hope that you never have to worry about that. I did want to touch base on the new Wixom Elementary School. I myself live down Maple Road past where the new Wixom Elementary School is being built. It's nice seeing it being starting to grow, but I am concerned that in the bond proposal, you guys had money allocated for traffic improvement, but there really hasn't been anything shared regarding the diagrams or the map of what's going to happen there. It doesn't look like you guys are looking to do a left-hand turn lane into the new school or a right-hand turn lane into the school, and there's no other way to get to our neighborhood past the school. If one little fender bender happens, you are blocking any access at 3 miles through dirt roads. So you have to be putting in left-hand turn lane into the new school. You have to be putting in a right-hand turn lane to allow the traffic to keep moving. I think the district has failed in the past with some of the elementary schools not putting in turn lanes. And I know you guys aren't subject to, the same kind of approval that like any other private development would require, because any private development would have to put turn lanes in. But for the safety of the residents and the students, you guys really need to look at doing that. But as for the teachers, I last came to the board meeting when we had a situation at Wixom Elementary last year, and I thought the board was slow, or the district was slow to react. And we ended up losing some teachers at Wixom Elementary because of that. And I think you're going to lose teachers across the entire district because of the slow reaction.
30 seconds.
And frankly speaking, I was happy to see you guys had a closed session last month. You need to have a closed session every month until you get this contract figured out, because you need to stay on top of your administration that you want this resolved. Because it's not the board's job to resolve it, it's the board's job to tell the administration to get this fixed. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, I apologize. I'm just going to go for a first name here. Bill?
Good evening, members of the board, everyone else. Over the last decade, Walled Lake's investment dollar for dollar, real dollar basis for basic programs have really only increased 1.4% over a decade. Almost every other spending category has increased its share of the pie at the expense of our educators. During the same time, our most valuable assets have had to pick up the burden through inflation, through lost opportunity costs. That's darn near shameful, in my opinion. For over 4 months now, we've been having these same discussions here in this room. I'm tired of saying it, but I have to say it again. The distribution of what we are spending is warped in such a way that we are neglecting the heart of the educational mission. I brought some charts. I'm the chart guy, so some of you may have seen this last time. This is our district comparison, side by side, for basic program funding. We are at the bottom of all the surrounding districts. There are some other charts that talk about some other bits we'll get into here. Educators at every level at Walled Lake, from brand new teachers to our most senior educators, are woefully below the bar when contrasted with everyone else. Our fresh new educators are making $10,000 or 20% less on average when comparing against these districts. Why would they come here and start their careers already on their back foot? Why, how do I phrase this nicer, a little nicer? I'm yelling a little bit, I apologize, I'm a little fervent right now. But those that have stuck with the system for 13 years, our long time, or gone through the 13 steps, our longest tenured educators, are making $15,000 less than everyone else, or 17%. The people that we have dedicated their entire working careers are just rock bottom by comparison. Every measure shows a lack of priority for those that we say we value the most. It hurts me to say, but the Walled Lake motto, every child, every day, is starting to appear to be just a tagline. I urge the board to help direct contract negotiations and budget planning towards meaningful increases for educators, restoring our focus in the classroom and the professionals who help make learning possible.
30 seconds, please.
Thank you. I'll give you my time.
Thank you. Sean Carley?
Hello, my name is Sean Curley. I'm a product of Walled Lake Schools. I have 2 children going through Walled Lake Schools right now. And my friends that encouraged me to come here tonight apologize for the the meeting I came to, but I think it was a great one because it touched base on something I have a problem with, which was violence in the schools. So back in September 28th, there was an incident on a school bus involving my child. 10 years old, 10-year-old fights happen. The big problem was when there was a chance for the fight to break up, the other kid decided to come back and attack my son with a full water bottle. You know, just like the Stanleys that everyone carries around, the 5-pound sledgehammers. Tried to attack my kid in the head with it. Luckily, he's trained to defend himself. He blocked it and did what he had to do. I've received nothing but blockades from the district. I've gone through the principal to the board of direction, or the director of transportation. I have names, but I just don't know if I need to name them. Then the executive supervisor of food and services, and then the deputy superintendent and the superintendent. Not one person has been able to answer my question is if that was considered a weapon or not. In page 14 of your guys' code of conduct, which I was referenced to read to when I was handed my son's level 2 suspension, which I'm fine with because you make a mistake, you get the suspension. It blatantly calls out materials used like a weapon in a dangerous manner. 3 people that I've talked to that have seen the video that I'm not allowed to see have told me that this did happen in fact, and it was an attempt to hit him in the head. I don't know if anyone's been on a school bus recently, but 4.5-foot tall children, only thing sticking up above a seat is their head. So there was only one intent with that strike. And it's unfortunate the lawyer's not here, because I'm sure this would be a different conversation if a kid was to get struck in the temple with a 5-pound sledgehammer. So I really need some clarification because I've been made to my attention that Commerce Elementary would consider that a weapon. The other student involved was given the same disciplinary action, level 2 violation, which is a 1-day suspension. And we were told that we are not allowed to be privy to the disciplinary action of the other student, which I do not understand because it is my student and the other student. We are not asking to know, we're not asking for the entire district to know what happened to the other student and his disciplinary action. We feel this is an A-B conversation and we are being left out. We're not allowed to see the video. I have a background check on file, so I'm allowed to do any type of school volunteer activity, and I'm allowed in the school. I can see any student on that bus at any point in time when I walk around the school. I need to know why we are not allowed to see footage involving our children and violent acts against them. This is getting ridiculous. My daughter came to CHS 2 years ago. Within the first 3 months, it was a story about an attack.
Please conclude your comments.
Yes. There was about a fight in the, or a scuffle in the lunchroom, and a kid was struck in the head with a water bottle. That was not my kid, that was not my fight. This is my kid, this is my fight. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Christine Titus.
Good evening. First, I would like to thank the FFE as a recipient of some of their funding. I'm very appreciative to them over the past several years. And once again this year, I was a recipient, so I'd like to thank them publicly. I'd like to wish you all happy holidays. But keeping the holidays in mind, no matter what holiday you celebrate this time of year, they all seem to involve lights. We see lights on homes, we see lights on the menorah, there's candles, there's all kinds of lights this time of year. We have a lot of bright lights in our district, and I fear that they are dimming dramatically, not because of coming up on the winter break, but due to the worry they are feeling over a lack of a contract. So as you continue negotiations, because it sounds like they're probably going into January at least, please help to brighten those lights again and offer an equitable contract to our teaching staff. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to move on to administrative commentary. Dr. Lanz.
Madam President, I'm happy to speak on behalf of all of our administrators tonight. First of all, we'd like to wish Mr. Scaling a happy birthday. Happy birthday. You're welcome to sing to him afterwards if you choose to. Oh, I think he's a solid 44, so we'll go with that.
Yeah, right.
And to our staff, our community, and to the board, happy holidays, safe travels, and I hope you enjoy the break with your families and friends. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Going to move on to board commentary. I'm going to start with you, Dr. Zellner.
Thank you, Madam President. First of all, I've had the pleasure of engaging with all of those wonderful extracurriculars that we've been hearing about so far. I was able to see a number of the plays and collage concerts and different, I also got to hang out with the robotics team, and they had a wonderful, beautiful season. So just want to call out all of the work that we've been doing around the schools. I also loved Mrs. Brandon's presentation. I love outdoor education. It's a reminder that kids come to school often, especially in the upper grades, because of physical education, because of the extracurriculars, because of the passion of those teachers. So I just wanted to name that as well. Happy birthday, Mr. Scaling. And I also wanted to name that last night I had the pleasure of joining Dr. Lons and Ms. Kaplan, Mr. Siegler at the Oakland County School Board Association joint meeting with the Oakland County Superintendents Association. And we had an incredible presentation from SEMCOG, which is the Southeastern Michigan Council of Governments, and they have an incredible data dashboard. So if you are a data nerd, if you love charts and graphs like I do and spreadsheets, you can go right out to that website and look at the projections for the demographics of our county and how many students we could be expecting over the next 25 years. I think what struck me is in the course of the last 25 years, looking backwards, from when I first entered this profession of education, is how many shocks to our system we've had, from the Great Recession to the pandemic, has really changed the landscape of the students that we're serving. We're also contending with huge demographic shifts and lower birth rates. Someone said to me the other day, oh, there was no kids coming to trick-or-treats. This is in October. So yes, because nobody's having kids. We have some stable population right now, and a lot of that has to do with demographic shifts in terms of people moving to our county, generally from other countries. So our population is changing, and while we have some stabilization here in Walled Lake, I think the chart that really struck me was comparing the school-age children to the number of folks 65 and over. And it used to be that there were fewer 65 years and older as compared to the school-age children, and right now we're equal. And the trends are going to reverse. So we're going to increase with our 65 and up population and lose our children. And so it's just an interesting conundrum to be thinking about how we serve our community, how we continue to keep our communities vibrant, making connections, as Ms. Brandon does with her class, between the schools and the larger community, and making sure that we are serving all of us and reminding ourselves that we still have an obligation to our children, and that public education has a lot to offer to our families and to our community. One of the other interesting shifts that I just want to name is that it used to be that when people were looking for communities to move into, what they prioritized was the value that was coming with the school district, and that is actually decreasing now as well. People are looking for different amenities and not putting as much pressure on the school district. I don't know what that implications of that are entirely, but it's just having the premier school district is not going as far either. So there's a lot of interesting demographic shifts that I really encourage our community to dig into, and it is going to take collective conversation about how we prioritize what we are focusing on in our communities, and making sure that we are still serving all of our students, no matter what's happening with how many we have. So that, I think, did I miss anything? You all can fill it in. Okay, thank you. That concludes my comments.
Mrs. West.
Thank you, Mrs. Kaplan. Just want to wish everybody a happy holiday and that everybody's safe. Hopefully everybody makes good choices as they are out and celebrating with family and friends. And I just want to remind students, especially our high school students, that finals are in January, so not to put a little conundrum there, like have to like dull that break, but don't forget to like open the books a little bit and check out your notes every once in a while so you don't have that downward spiral. Sorry, the educator in me comes out here. But this way to, you know, hopefully do well on your exams in January. And just for the public knowledge that we as a board are asking questions regarding the contract. So I know you don't always see it up here, but we are asking questions and behind the scenes and staying on top of things. So we are trying to be fiscally responsible and give fair contracts. So just know that we are here and we are doing what we can on our side as well.
Thank you. First of all, happy holidays to everybody. As you know, I spend a lot of time talking to our representatives in Lansing, trying to figure out what's going on. We were fortunate that the $645 million that was just cut from the budget will have minimal impact on our district. The other thing that happened at about 4:30 this afternoon is the Senate is trying to put what they call a minibus deal in to fund the government and prevent the January 30th shutdown. We don't know where that's going to go, how far it's going to get pushed, but it seems to have consensus opinion on both sides, which I have to say is, you know, something I am very in favor of so that we can continue on. I will be one of the members representing Walled Lake and the state going to Washington for advocacy and to meet with our representatives the end of January, beginning of February. If anybody in the community has some messages you would like me to deliver, please forward them to me because I will be happy to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lippett?
That was unfair, skipping. Yeah, so happy holidays to everybody. Boy, what a whirlwind. You know, when Halloween starts, I always think that's the beginning of the holiday season. We get to have so many great moments, and here we are. New Year's is almost upon us, and Christmas is almost here. So I can't believe how quickly it's happened. And like Dr. Zellner said a moment ago, I too have had the opportunity to attend all these amazing events. Almost all of them, but I've gone to my fair share. I love the collage concerts. Did anybody get a chance to go to any of the collage concerts? But they are fantastic. If you haven't been to one, please go to next year's. I think there's one tonight. And is there any left? Are there any other ones left? I think we're done. But they are terrific events featuring our orchestras and bands, and I think that they are the pride of our district from a music standpoint. Something else to consider is that for those of you who have seniors, like I have, college admissions have started, and this is the period between now and February, March, where our children are either going to be crying or screaming with joy over these next few months, and this is the culmination of all the great work they've done in Walled Lake schools. So just be aware and be sensitive to a lot of students in our midst that are pretty stressed out right now. So I just want to say it'll all be okay. People end up where they're supposed to be. Lastly, I'm going to speak just for a moment on a personal note, having nothing to do with the district. Some of you know I experienced a loss in my family this week, which was very sad for my family. My elderly father passed away, and the only reason I bring it up here is we had the benefit 10 years ago of interviewing my elderly father on video. And we put together hours of digital files of my father telling us about his childhood and growing up and what it was like, things he experienced, things he did. And the only reason I think it's important to bring up here is for those of you that have either elderly parents or people that you want to document their incredible experience on this earth, I highly recommend you download some of the interview templates that are out there. Do the interview. Do it now. Do it before it's too late. because I can tell you, just speaking for myself and my family, having access to these videos, having access to so much footage of my father has been a big comfort to our family. So I just wanted to share that with the group. Happy holidays again, and I hope we'll see you again after the new year.
Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Mrs. Kaplan. I want to say thank you to all those community members who spoke this evening. It takes courage and passion, of course, to show up here and share your thoughts. I know not all of us like to speak in public, so I understand that. Just as Ms. West stated, and I'm sure all of us state, is that we are asking questions. I'm frustrated just like everyone else as a community member, as a parent in this district. I would like to formally request that we have a closed session in January. I'm throwing that out there to see where we're at with the status. Take it for whatever it is. That's my stance. In the past month, I've enjoyed the following. I've attended the Wixom Elementary groundbreaking. I've attended the 6th grade band performance at CHS. My son was in the band, and that was wonderful. It was a quick, 12 minutes, but it was amazing to see how quickly his trumpeting was in September versus now. He could actually play some things. And then I also attended an 8th grade CHS basketball game, which is amazing. I believe they just lost to Banks, I think, but that's okay. Wrapped up seasons of basketball and volleyball through community education, which is a great opportunity for residents as well, for my own children. Attended Hadestown at Walled Lake Western, which was amazing. Attended It's a Wonderful Life at Central, equally superb, and the Collage concert at Western as well. During the next few weeks or so, or months, or whatever you want to say, I'm hoping to attend a basketball or hockey game this break at Walled Lake Northern to try and be more active in the northern community as well. And looking forward to that. I just have kind of a personal note as well here, is just that, as we know, December, some of you may or may not know, but December is Seasonal Affective Disorder, or SAD Awareness Month. Each year, millions of Americans are affected by this condition, which brings on significant mood changes in response to the changing of seasons. I know it affects a lot of us out there. It occurs during late fall and winter months. Not only can it affect teachers and educators, your kids as well. I know in Michigan it's dark and gloomy, and here we are. So just what I want to say is, during this time, just remember not everyone will have the same experience during this upcoming holiday break. Some might be struggling financially, emotionally, and mentally to get them through these holidays. So be mindful, because it's 2 weeks off, just to think about that. Think about your neighbors, think about your friends, your family members. Be mindful and reach out to them. And check in with yourself too. You know, that's important as well, to kind of follow through with that and see how you're doing. So I just want to say, treat each other with respect, kindness, and love for one another this season. Happy holidays to everyone out there, to my fellow board members and administration. And I would be remiss if I did not state, my kids both said before I got here, will there be a snow day tomorrow? They both said that, and they said, hey, if we could be alerted at 10 or 11 instead of 4 in the morning, that's all.
I think you might be asking a little much, Mr. Smith. I just want to say happy holidays to everybody. Be careful driving home tonight, because the weather was not great coming in, so I'm sure it's not great going out. So everyone just be very careful and be mindful of that. I want to just identify, tagging onto Mr. Lippett and Mr. Smith, the holiday seasons are fantastic for most of us. There are a bunch of us that don't have the same experiences. And it's important for us to be very mindful of all of our neighbors and our friends and the students in this district that are struggling. And so if we can do a helping hand, that would be great. I just want to share a couple programs that we did with Lakes Area Youth Assistance this month, and how fantastic that was for some of our students in our community. We did an Adopt with Huron Valley Hospital, and we had over 83 students served with bags and baskets of gifts, that unbelievable amount of stuff. I mean, bags that are bigger, and I'm not that big, but bigger than me, and just amazing. I mean, I can tell you, because I had to carry them 7 times up and down hallways, probably 20 to 30 pounds each bag, and so that's, was amazing. So I want to say thank you to Leah for that, and to Huron Valley Hospital and all of their community members that also donated personally to the event. Also, this past Tuesday, we had Shop with Hero over at Myers, and we had one the previous week at the Wixom Myers. And that's an amazing event that we have numerous amounts of students that come in. They get paired up with a police officer, a paramedic, a firefighter, and they get $200 to spend, and they go shopping. And the heroes probably have more fun than the students. Well, some of them, I can tell you, some of them were pulling their hair out a little bit on Tuesday night. You know, little rambunctious students, some of them, and some of these police officers didn't know what to do. So it's quite funny to watch some of it. And as a parent, you know, you step back and you let them try to figure out how to manage the student. And we had, I think there was 36 students that were served in Walled Lake or Commerce, and I can't remember how many were in Wixom because we jointly do it with Walled Lake, South Lyon, Novi. Those LEA programs all collaborate in Wixom. So I'm not sure exactly how many members. And each student, you know, gets the $200 to spend. They get a meal for the evening. We give them pizza and, you know, other things like that. They sing, they, you know, enjoy themselves for the evening, and on the way out, each family gets a big bag of food for the holidays, you know, whether it's ham, potatoes, desserts, and it's just a very inspirational, you know, evening and event for these kids, and the kids absolutely, you know, love it. I can tell you, just on a side note, it's quite interesting if you happen to be at the Meijer when one of these events are going on, because there's police cars, fire trucks, ambulances, and you have absolutely no idea how many people have approached thinking that there's something horrible going on in the Meijers and can't quite understand what's going on, and they don't want to come in the doors. And we have to assure them that they're safe, that they're just out there to help our students. And then they get involved, and I can't also tell you that, on a side note, there are some people in the community that will come in. Let's use our brains, people. You have 50 police officers, and some of them in SWAT gear, walking around Meijer, and you try to shoplift in front of them. It's not the brightest idea. So just putting it out there, whoever's listening, don't do that. But besides that, everyone just have a great holiday, enjoy, and just think about your neighbors. Thank you. We're going to move on to the consent agenda. We have the approval of the minutes, the proposed November 6th special meeting, November 6th regular meeting, personnel recommendations of new hires, retirements, and resignations, our financial records, disbursements in the amount of $32,338,422, balance sheet and statement of revenues and expenditures unedited, and investment schedule, purchases under $50,000, one consortium fee, district-wide, Oakland Schools, network maintenance and support. Our annual renewal is $35,830.53 from the general fund. And then we have the Head Start Director's Report. Mr. Siegler.
I move that the Board of Education approve the consent agenda as presented.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. So we're moving on to purchases over $50,000. Dr. Lanz.
Thank you, Madam President. The administration has obtained consortium pricing through the Michigan School Business Officials Aggregate Bus Purchasing Program and recommends the purchase of 6 replacement buses from Hoekstra Transportation. This purchase will be funded from the 2019 bond fund. The 3 of the 6 are 53-passenger buses designated for our special education students at $167,400.01 for each, totaling $502,203. And then 3 30-passenger buses designated for our special education students with wheelchair accessible access at $115,456 each, totaling $346,368 for a grand total of $848,571. It's a lot of numbers.
Madam President.
Mr. Lippert.
I move that the Board of Education authorize the purchase of 6 buses from Hoekstra Transportation, Inc. in the amount of $848,571 from the 2019 bond fund.
Support.
Discussion. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Dr. Lenz.
Thank you very much. Walled Lake Consolidated School District and PMR, our project team, recommends entering into a purchase order with Fort for the procurement of our loo systems to be installed at Dublin, Glengarry, Guest, Hickory Woods, Keith, Loon Lake, Meadowbrook, Oakley Park, Pleasant Lake, Walled Lake Elementary School, as well as the Early Childhood Center and the future Geisler Educational Services Center, totaling $591,179.40 from the 2024 bond fund. If I may add to that, for our community, the loo system is an interactive program an interactive projection system that our physical education teachers will be able to use at the elementary schools. We've had it at Commerce Elementary. I believe we're going our second year at this point, and it is a significant improvement in the ability for our PE teachers to instruct our students. I'm very excited to put this forward to the board. I believe it continues to show the equity and the commitment that we have to all areas of education of our students.
Mr. Smith.
I move that the Board of Education approve the district, where am I at? To enter into a purchase order with Forte for the procurement of loo systems at the 12 district buildings as presented, totaling $591,179.40 from 2024 bond funds.
Support.
Discussion. Ms. West.
I watched the video about what the loo systems does, and my 10-year-old was sitting next to me while I was watching this. She's like, wow, that is really cool. I want to do this. And then she was like, it made her very excited. She's already an active child. But I think that it is very interactive, so it'll help bring in those kids who maybe may not feel as athletic or may be a little more kind of shy to interact with their other students in PE, that hopefully it'll encourage them to continue to interact a little more.
Mr. Smith.
No, go ahead. I'll save mine for you.
Mrs. Kaplan, question. Was there a recording done when it was first installed there?
Like a video?
Yeah,
of it?
something showing the teacher. I thought I remember something. I'm just wondering, like, if we could reshare it for the public. I swear there was something that Dan.
Well, Mr. Durkin look into that.
I thought so. And then will there be curriculum that is utilized based on this system? And then can other classes utilize this? Are there like apps or different, I don't know, templates like music class can use that's interactive with things like that?
Yeah, thank you. That's actually what I forgot to mention. So I appreciate that lead-in. It does tie into all of our curricular areas at the elementary level. So if you were doing two-digit multiplication, the game and the interactiveness could be based on two-digit multiplication. So there'll be a lot of opportunity to cross over with curriculums. As far as having other classes come in to use it, that would be difficult, only because most of our gyms are used 98% of the time. And so there's not that opportunity, but there would be the opportunity to partner with the music teacher and to say, for the next week, could you do this activity with the kids? Because that'll lead into what I'm doing in the classroom. Ms. Koyansky, am I good with that?
Perfect answer. Thanks, Dr. Lund.
Thank you.
I just want to say I think that the system is very cool, and I'm very excited to see it widespread across the district.
We could also do a board event at it if you'd like. We could, when we have the new Geisler Educational Service Center up and running, we'll take a field trip. How's that?
Okay, any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Dr. Lund.
The project team recommends to enter into a standard forms of agreements between owner and contractor by the summary of awards presented for Northern High School remodeling project. The total award recommendation for this project is $12,067,908.51. Recommendation based on the bids for each trade category include recommending mandatory and voluntary alternates, construction contingency, and CM fees. As I had an opportunity to update the board, there is a slight change in this. The community might note that I'm actually asking for an approval of $11,724,229.73, and that's because we have an opportunity to save some additional money potentially on looking at the camera system replacement just for Walled Lake Northern. Now, to be clear, the cameras are working fine. There's nothing wrong with them. It's part of the bond replacement. We'll end up replacing well over 1,000 cameras by the time we're done with the 24 bond. This just gives us a little bit more time to look at that and see if we can save some additional funds.
Mr. Siegler.
I move that the Board of Education approve entering into standard forms of agreement between owner and contractor by the summary of awards presented for the Northern High School remodeling project totaling $11,724,229.73, not to include the bids received for security cameras.
Okay, discussion. So I just want to be, oh, go ahead. I was going to say, I just want to be clear. So the bid that we're asking, is for the exact same thing, just without the security cameras, so that we can go out and rebid the security cameras to try to save us money.
That's accurate.
Okay. Mr. Smith?
Ms. Kaplan, the one question I have, which I already shared, is will this include a new AC system for the auxiliary gym?
This does not include an air conditioning system for the auxiliary gym. You will see that bid come probably in March, February-ish. At this point, the bond team is committed to having that installed over the summer. Now, there are obviously things we can't control to go with that, but that is the plan, to have it up and functional by the time school starts. And that will make Northern comparable with the other two high schools, being 100% air conditioned.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Yep, Mrs. West.
I just want to thank Dr. Lons for including all of the bid information, because we are able to see that, and that, it's taken into account as far as like the cost and, utilizing taxpayer money wisely. And so I do appreciate that. So usually it was the lowest bid that was given to us, but not always. And I'm sure there are a lot of things that go into that consideration, but I just want to make sure that people know that it looked like there was very careful consideration going into this, so thank you.
Thank you. And this bid package did come in under the bond budget.
Thank you. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Back to you, Dr. Lons.
The project team recommends to enter into standard form agreements between owner and contractor by the summary of awards represented for the Geisler Educational Services Center. The total award recommendation for this project is $15,007,647.68. Recommendation, includes base bids for each trade category, including recommended mandatory and alternates, construction contingency, and CM fees. This project also did come in under budget.
Mr. Lippett.
I move that the Board of Education approve entering into standard forms of agreements between owner and contractor by the summary of awards presented for the Geisler Educational Services Center project totaling $15,007,647.68.
Support.
Discussion. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Back to you, Dr. Lons.
I'll never admit this publicly, but at this point, I do miss Mr. Chatfield.
Can I send him?
That was kind of
we are
publicly.
streaming.
Can I send him the tape?
Let's not tell Bill. Okay. The project team recommends to enter into standard form of agreement between owner and contractor for the summary of awards presented for Northern High School remodeling, flooring, and plumbing project. The total list award recommendation for the project is $1,658,277. Recommendations include base bid for each trade category, including recommended mandatory, voluntary alternatives, construction contingency, CM fees, and costs. The reason why this was not included in the previous package was when we went out to bid to start with, we did not feel that we had enough bidders involved. And so thanks to a fantastic bond team, they were able to rebid and have additional bidders bid for it, which again allowed this to come in under budget.
Mr. Siegler.
I move that the Board of Education approve entering into standard forms of agreement between the owner and contractor by the summary of awards presented for the Northern High School remodeling, flooring, and plumbing project totaling $1,658,277.
Discussion. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Okay, moving on, back to Dr. Lons.
Super stoked to keep going. While reviewing utility services for a new residential development near Hickory Woods Elementary, it was found that an easement was never created for a gas pipeline. As it is customary to enable municipalities to maintain the service and utility that reside on district property. Consumers Energy is requesting approval of a gas pipeline easement. Administration has reviewed the documents and with legal counsel and recommends the approval. It's, as additional information, there's already an easement in this general area. That just happens to be for sewer and water. So they're really just overlaying that so that they can have the gas go to one particular home. I'm not sure why the builder didn't ask for it at the same time, but this is where we're living right now. To be good neighbors, we would recommend this. It's an area, it's in the back playground area. They will, if there's any disturbance to that property, they'll remediate it back to original form, although with the previous easement, they do slant drilling, and so it's very unlikely there'll be much disturbance at all to the building, or to, not to the building, to the grounds, excuse me.
Mr. Smith.
I move that the Board of Education approve the gas pipeline easement with Consumers Energy and authorize the superintendent to execute the easement documents.
Support.
Discussion. Mrs. West.
Will this, will a section of the playground be unattainable to students while this is being done?
It will be. It'll be, there's a good chance it'll be done over the break.
Okay.
That's not dependent on us, that's dependent on a few variables. That's our hope. But it's so far back that and given the way playgrounds are used in the winter, significantly different than the summer, I don't anticipate that really being much of a disturbance.
Okay. So do we have any concerns about safety issues with workers being there if the students are outside?
I do not, given that we have adults out there monitoring all the time.
Okay.
And they'll be told not to go in that area, obviously.
Absolutely. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Lippett.
Thank you, Madam President. Just dumb question. Is there cost associated with this?
There was some costs because of involving our attorney. The neighbor has agreed to reimburse the district $1,000 to cover costs.
Does that $1,000 cover the cost of the attorney?
Well, with our good friends sitting in the room, sure it does. No, it does not. No, but as we've worked with people in the past, we like to be reasonable and as part of a community partnership.
Got it. I didn't know the attorney was sitting in the room, so apologies for putting you on the spot there. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Back to you, Dr. Lons.
Nothing makes me happier than turn this over to Mrs. Omer.
Thank you, Dr. Lons. Executive Energy, which is our energy manager for the district, has been working over the years with the district to contain and save energy costs through the Electrical Choice Program. As electrical costs have risen, Executive Energy has been able to secure pricing on a year-to-year basis that was favorable and garnered significant cost savings to the district. Executive Energy is recommending that the district enter into an additional 9-year agreement with CMS ERM, which is Consumers Energy. This recommendation ensures that the district has an additional energy procurement partner that has the capacity to meet the renewable portfolio standard requirements mandated by the state of Michigan and protects against the inflationary pressures of rising electrical costs. The board is being asked to consider authorizing district personnel to sign a 9-year addendum to the CMS Energy contract. This addendum will lock in the base megawatt hour, MWH, for an additional 9 years, extending the current contract to May of 2036.
Mrs. Kaplan.
Dr. Zellner. We hear from Dr. Zellner.
I move.
Down there.
I move. Thanks, Madam President. I move that the Board of Education approve the First Amendment to the Retail Electric Sales Agreement between the Walled Lake Consolidated School District and CMS Energy and authorize the superintendent to sign the agreement on behalf of the district.
Support.
Discussion. Mr. Siegler.
You know, this has been around for quite a while, and to be able to lock in rates that we have, as we also do with the bus purchases, with the fuel costs, I mean, we are very fortunate because that is money that is coming out of the general fund, but we can actually guesstimate what we're using, and it helps us to a great extent with the budget. And I know when this was first brought up, I don't know how many years ago, but we said, you know, we were laughing because we said, could we do this for our homes? And, you know, it is it is an opportunity that we are fortunate to have in the schools and in government as a government entity. And to be able to lock in right now to 2036, I think is amazing.
Mr. Lippett.
Yeah, thank you, Madam President. Just dumb question. Was there something special about 9 years versus 10 or 8 or another arbitrary number?
Mrs. Omer will correct me, but I believe they offered very specific year options, like a 1 year, a 10-year, and a 20-year, whatever it might be. But we're already halfway into something.
We actually have the 1-year agreement with them, and most of the customers have been locking into a 10-year agreement. We had that opportunity in 2022, which is when we signed that 1-year agreement. At that time, it was determined to just do the 1 year. So to be consistent with their other customers, they're extending it to the 9-year.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Mr. Smith.
Just two random questions. I was trying to read through it, and you don't have to get back to me today if it's. Does this company do an energy audit to us and provide us like ways to improve?
We have an on-site energy manager that they work very closely with to look at the savings that we garner based on what's out there in the market and what we're actually here, as well as looking at ways that we can improve our energy savings by procedures that we have within the district.
And then follow up with the current pricing. I see it says with inflationary that it's. Are we seeing a drastic increase like everyone else is in energy costs, or is it this is going to really keep it down?
Well, again, obviously, if we had that crystal ball, that would be perfect. But up to this particular point in time, the year by year has worked for us, and the contracts we've had in place have garnered significant savings for us over the years. This 1-year contract that we locked into, unfortunately, it's going to be very more closely to what DTE is charging. So that's why we're kind of looking forward, because it's really the renewable energy requirements that will make it more difficult for us to get the cost savings into the future, if that makes sense. So because of the fact that they increase it over a percentage throughout that time period, they have to have the facilities to be able to generate the renewable energy, and that infrastructure isn't in place yet. So that's what our hope is. We also asked for there to be a clause in there that if there's economic changes, that we would come back to the drawing board, whether that was that the state changes the mandates, and or if for some reason the economy changes and those prices aren't the same, that we would both come back and try to keep each other economically whole.
Any other questions? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Dr. Lanz.
Mr. Scaling.
Thank you, Dr. Lantz. For many years, Walled Lake Consolidated Schools has been open to Section 105 Schools of Choice under the School State Aid Act. Under this section, a pupil may enroll from one Oakland County school district to another. The administration is requesting that the Board of Education approve Walled Lake Consolidated Schools as a participant in Section 105C, Limited Schools of Choice for the 26-27 school year, with the designation of school openings not to exceed 10% of the most recent October count in any individual grade in all schools.
So I think it'd be important to note that this is a change from what we've done in the past. And Mr. Scaling, you're welcome to correct me, but I believe in the past we've had a cap for a building, and we've had a 10% exception for kindergarten and junior kindergarten. We're now taking that 10% and applying that to all grades, JK through 12. That being said, we typically don't have any concerns in 6 through 11. I should say 11. We don't do 12th grade school of choice. So 6 through 11, this has never been a problem. It's only been a problem in the elementary. And by problem, I mean we have people that would like to come to Walled Lake, and because the total building is at the 5%, we're not allowed to take the one student that might have been the school of choice in 3rd grade at Walled Lake L. Would that be a fair summary?
That is correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Mrs. West.
Where am I? Sorry. I move that the Board of Education approve administration's recommendation that the district participate in Section 105 Limited Schools of Choice for the 2026-27 school year, and the school openings be designated by administration not to exceed 10% of the most recent October count in any individual grade in all schools.
Support.
Discussion. Mrs. West?
I just want to thank Dr. Lons because he was able to explain that if we have a family coming in for school of choice, say they have a third grader and they want to bring in their kindergartner, if it's full, we're not going to go ahead and accept another student to add another section. So we're not paying for our salary to expand sections if we don't have the capacity in a school. So it's unfortunate to think that, we can't accept everybody, but at the same time, we need to make sure that we are thinking about our financial opportunities that we have and be fiscally responsible to the district, but also, try to take who we can. So thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. West. As a follow-up to that, at the elementary level, if we have a student, and I only limit it to elementary because, again, we're not seeing this challenge at the secondary level. At the elementary level, if we have a student that would like to go, I'll use third grade at Walled Lake L, and we happen to be full there, we've always had the opportunity to offer an alternative location. This wouldn't change that. And so we go back to that parent. We have a great team that works on this and says, would you like to go to Wixom? Would you like to go to Guest? So we try to keep it regional, closest, sorry, Matt, closest to the building of which their original choice was. So this will maintain that practice of still offering other alternatives to families if we don't happen to have room at that one specific building. And to follow up on the fiscal responsibility, we heard today from a number of people sharing that we would like to make sure that we can have contracts with all of our staff, pay all of our staff well. We have two examples today of how we're trying to do that. We're locking in costs in a long term so that we can budget effectively for that and have a knowledge base of how we're budgeting versus a year to year trying to figure out what our electricity costs might be. And this is an opportunity for us to increase revenue. I know as educators we don't look at students as revenue, but ultimately how we get funded, students are the only revenue we have. And so to increase the number of students that we have without adding sections allows us to increase that marginal revenue with not increasing fixed costs.
Mr. Siegler?
And if I remember correctly, the families coming in provide their own transportation.
They do.
And I remember when we started, again, schools of choice, there was a period when we were at roughly 15,000 to 16,000 students. We would open this up and we would already have schools locked out and we were at a 5% cap. So, it is a way to bring people into the district, and I am thankful we've modified again.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Going back to Dr. Lons.
Going back to Mrs. Omer.
Thank you, Dr. Lons. We were approached by White Lake Township to actually eliminate our fees, which again was a nice opportunity versus renegotiating for some more. But so administration is recommending to amend the existing agreement with White Lake Township to remove the per parcel fee it currently charges the district for summer tax collection services. White Lake Township established a property tax administration fee that is now assessed to property owners. This fee is intended to cover the costs associated with assessing, collecting, and defending appeals on behalf of all taxing units it serves, including the district. Implementing this change requires a formal amendment to the existing agreement.
Mr. Smith?
I move that the Board of Education approve to amend the existing agreement with White Lake Township to remove the per parcel fee that it currently charges the district for summer tax collection services as presented.
Discussion. I have one question, which could sound a little odd. Why? I mean, I'm grateful that they're asking us to do that, but why?
Essentially, because they charged that to the property owners, this was nothing that we requested. They approached us regarding this particular agreement, and most of those agreements we do renegotiate, and so they approached us early and asked if they could get that passed, because again, it's a formality for them as well to eliminate those fees, and so it would almost be for them be double dipping.
Gotcha. Thank you. Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. We're going to leave Dr. Lons alone for a moment. Say, Oakland County School Board Association proposed resolutions. Annually, the Oakland County School Board Association, OCSBA, Government Relations Committee GRC, which Mr. Siegler is a member of, establishes legislative priorities for the current legislative session. The Resolutions and Bylaws Committee then review the adopted legislative priorities and draft new resolutions and/or amendments to previously adopted resolutions based on those legislative priorities. When there is an alignment with Michigan Association of School Boards and/or the National School Boards Association resolutions, the MASB and SBA resolution information is referenced. Once reviewed by the OCSBA Board of Directors, the proposed resolutions are presented to the members of the district for consideration. Every member district Board of Education has been provided with the proposed resolutions. OCBA requires that each member district Board of Education present a vote on the proposed resolutions. Mr. Siegler.
Thank you, Mrs. Kaplan. I move that the Board of Education approve the Oakland County School Board Association's proposed resolutions as presented.
Discussion. Mr. Siegler.
I do want to thank my colleagues for getting back to me when I did forward you the information. Again, as we're looking towards things that we might need to change, might need to modify, or things that we have to work on when we are going to Washington, I wanted to make sure that everybody was informed and everybody was in support of this going forward.
Thank you, and thank you for your work on the GRC. Does anybody else have any other discussion questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Okay. Last but not least. Dr. Lanz, I'll start with you.
Thank you. So we're at the point now where we need to make a decision on the 31AA. And just as a point of reference, currently, we have opted in to accept that money. So if we take no action as a district, then the money will come to us along with all of the requirements that come with it. So what I need from the board is a motion to, in essence, either accept the money, another possible motion, don't accept the money, or a third possible motion, accept the money only if privilege is removed. Now, you heard today that that's probably not going to happen. So I would not necessarily, and there could be a fourth or fifth motion. I'm not, those are just the three that come to the top of my mind right now. I would not recommend to the board including anything, having it determined on whether privilege is removed or not, because I believe that that is a non-issue. I don't believe that will happen in the next, 12 holiday, and with half the days being holiday days. I find it unlikely that we'll receive any additional substantive information from the court. So that's my request of the board.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to let somebody just pick one of the motions, and then we'll have discussion and see where it goes from there. Dr. Zillner.
I move that the Board of Education direct the superintendent to accept funding pursuant to Section 31AA of the State School Aid Act of 2025.
Support. Okay, discussion. Mr. Siegler.
I find it difficult to turn down $1.7 million. I do have personally some very strong reservations because I really find it difficult to understand how we are going to do this without a guarantee on the back end. And that's what I kept on asking with the attorney. I know in talking to the majority of the districts that I was with last night in Oakland County, they have all, they have voted to accept, and several of them have said, we know if something happens, we're going to have to call a special meeting just to discuss this and move forward with it. With the court cases, with what's happened yesterday in the court cases, I don't believe we are going to see anything come back on this. I think, unfortunately, it's there. I'm going to vote in favor of it, even though personally, deep in my heart, I have some very strong reservations on this. And I do believe that this is opening up Pandora's box as we move forward. And I think, you know, we are responsible to our district, so I have to do what is best for the district at this time, but I really, truly feel that there's something on the backside of this that is going to make me cringe.
Mr. Lippett.
Thank you, Madam President. Yeah, I struggle with this, as I'm sure we all are struggling with this. It's a deal with the devil, if you don't mind my saying that metaphorically. I intend to vote against this. I am not comfortable putting the district in the face of Mr. Sigler's Pandora's box. I don't think this is a good move. In fact, I think that I suspect that the insurance companies are desperately hoping we accept this money, and they are not selling it to us. They are buying with us right now. This is an opportunity for them to use this, as I see it, to escape liability. And I don't believe we are, in my opinion, serving our district the best way we can and our students and staff by accepting this money. I would rather continue our posture with our budgeted money as it is and not accept this money under the terms that they've shown. And that is where I stand.
Anybody else have something they want to say? Yep, Dr. Zellner.
Yeah, I just, thank you, Mrs. Kaplan. I also want to state for the record that it is a very hard thing to ask all of us to waive that privilege. On the other hand, we have a privilege and responsibility to keep our schools safe and to make sure that they have the mental health supports that they need. $1.7 million is not nothing. And in observing what has happened around our county with the violence in Oxford, what we're talking about is waiving a privilege in an independent investigation that is run by the state or the governor. The thought that things would come out in that investigation that wouldn't come out in the normal course of an investigation, to me, is a negligible risk. It's not nothing, but it is a gamble in some ways. But if we are anticipating what it might be like if something horrible were to happen here, our community is going to want answers anyway. And some answers will come out anyway, having watched what has happened in this county. And to me, it makes more sense that a prevention is worth a pound of cure, and that if we can prevent something horrible happening because we have the mental health and behavioral staff that we need, that we have hardened, I don't love that term, but because we have put some money towards helping our schools have better infrastructure around safety and security, that we would be better off in the long run. I agree with the attorney that it makes no sense to me that it would be 50 years down the line that they would be saying we've waived our privilege, that this would be connected to the money. I think on its face that makes sense to me. And we're basically weighing risks here. And to me, the risk is higher to look into the faces of our community and say, no, we don't want $1.7 million for mental health and for the safety of our schools because we're worried about something down the line in terms of answers they would want anyway. So that's partially, I was originally with you. I was absolutely not. We can't waive privilege. That's a crazy thing to ask anybody to do. But after looking at the court cases and hearing from the attorney and talking to our friends around the county, I've really come to switch that reluctantly because of that waived privilege. And yet I think it's more important to invest the money for our schools.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, I totally respect that, Dr. Zellner, and I hear you loud and clear. And from my seat, were this a one-for-one exchange, in other words, 1 year against 1.7 million exchange for the privilege, and we could assume it was a 1 year encapsulated risk, I'd be all there. I'd be right with you. It's the unknown. It's the fact that they may extract from this an endless liability. And that's my no right there.
Mrs. West.
Thank you, President Kaplan. This was a really hard one that I felt like, we all struggled with because there's a lot of unclear wording in this. But one thing I really found was that I think with an investigation, if there was to be pray that there isn't, but if there was to be an incident, that a lot of times an investigation would bring forth a lot of information to light anyways. So I think that the transparency aspect of it, as far as, the citizens are gonna want, it's gonna be there, and they want to have the information. And so I think that it's almost imperative that we do this for transparency to our taxpayers.
Mr. Smith, do you want to say something before I do?
Yes, Ms. Kaplan. Sorry, I was a no to begin with. I don't know. It's a very difficult decision. I have follow-up questions. If, for instance, we said no, it would be pulled from the general fund, is what you're stating, to offset that loss.
Well, we'd have to make a choice.
Yes.
We'd have to make a choice to either continue what we're doing, and the only way we could do that would be to fund it through the general fund. So yes, let's say we continued everything, that would be $1.7 million out of the general fund that is not currently budgeted to come out of the general fund. Or we could discontinue the programs that are being funded by it, and then there would be zero effect to the general fund directly. It would just impact services that we're providing.
Gotcha. Would we be able to reach out to other resources that already provide that I have firsthand knowledge that there are other agencies that are within our district that we could lean on more, or is that?
I believe that we're close to the maximum ability that other resources have to support us.
Okay.
Because we're not typically the only school district that they're supporting.
Yes.
And so I think, and I appreciate our partners and the support that they've brought along with us. I don't think that would allow us to continue a lot of the services, because the services are in a different level of confidentiality with our school employee versus in essence, third-party vendor, and the relationships that we're building over time when we don't necessarily have that same person year in and year out that's not our employee.
Okay, and these funds again are one time, 1 year.
Well,
As of now.
to be fair, it would be difficult for us to spend the 1.7 by August 30th of 2026. It would be more likely that it would be spent by August 30th of 2027. Because as we're budgeting this not as a one-year expense. When we received the money the first time, we had carryover money that we then used that money and then did the carryover. So it wouldn't impact us as dramatically in this fiscal year. It impacts us severely next fiscal year. So to be clear to Mr. Lippett's point, this is not a one-year liability. Let's just assume that they say once you spend the money, this is gone. This is an 18-month area of liability to the district.
So back for clarification, for the suggested motion number 2, is that, so it's you're accepting it only if waiving of privilege is not required. So we don't know that. That's just your.
Well, from what the attorney said.
Yeah.
And in fairness, I've also provided the board with other attorneys' opinions.
Yeah.
Nobody believes that, given the court's decision right now, that is going to be removed at any time via a court action. Now, as our attorney said, no one can predict the future. Anything could happen tomorrow. The federal court judge could come tomorrow and make a ruling, right?
Yeah.
I find that incredibly unlikely, but it is possible.
All right, one last one.
Yep.
If we approve it, the deadline is December 30th, right? And things change with appeals or whatever.
We come back.
We come back.
That's always an option that we could call a special meeting.
And I just want to, I think I'm correct in this. We don't know what the legislature will do next year. when they're doing their budget, and we have no idea if it will be the same thing year after year once they see how much money they may have saved, or, with all the people that opted out. And so we don't know where it's gonna be, for 1 year, 1 term type of thing. We don't know that. And for my perspective on this, I'm gonna use the attorney's words, it sucks. I think this is a very crazy thing that we're being asked to do. I totally agree with Dr. Zellner and Mrs. West when they say, I have no issue and worry about us not being transparent and showing the community what's happening. And God forbid, please listen closely, we're not asking for anything to happen, that we don't want anything to be happening in our district. And I think, from my perspective, we're very transparent when things happen, and I think that we would be very transparent in this type of a situation, and everything would be exposed, as it should be. If something went wrong or something didn't go wrong, I think it would be exposed. My waning and my concern is we're so focused on mass casualty, as I asked the attorney, it's what's mass casualty, and then how does that affect a student that, has a mental health issue? How much of that information is shared publicly? And that's, where my concern is with that. And I'm not saying that the information wouldn't get out there anyway, because it probably will be. And I'm sure, your neighbor, you know what's going on with that boy, or girl, what's happening, so the gossip and the information gets out anyway in any kind of situation. But as a mental health professional, that's my biggest concern. But is never a good word, but I'm saying it again. The 1.7 will be helpful for our district at this point in time. And I don't see Walled Lake Schools having any issue with the transparency and being able to handle any type of investigation with any type of a situation, but it sucks. It totally sucks. So, and I find it distasteful, honestly, that we're even discussing this and that this has been put on our feet. And, it's, here, we're gonna give you money, but now you gotta do this for us and we want your information. And that gives me a very, very horrible taste in my mouth. But I will be a vote of a yes to accept the money at this moment in time. Any other discussion? Okay, well, we're gonna call for the vote. Would you guys like to read the motion one more time so you know what you're voting on? Or are you all good with it?
You know
All good?
it.
Can I read it one more time?
All right, I move that the Board of Education direct the superintendent to accept funding pursuant to Section 31AA of the State School Aid Act of 2025.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries 5-1. With that being said, we are going to adjourn at 10:03. I want to reiterate to everybody out there, please be careful. I have no idea what the weather is doing since we've been in here for 3 hours. But be very careful driving. I don't want a mass casualty event after we just said yes. So.